Okay, we'll reconvene into open session. Call the meeting to order at 6:02. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Jill, could we get a roll call?
Mayor Lance?
Present.
Vice Mayor Walter?
Present.
Councilmember Paula?
Here.
Councilmember Bagby? Councilmember Cruz?
Here.
Thank you.
And I still am not seeing Councilmember Bagby's name.
I keep watching.
Oh,
there she is. There we go.
Councilmember Bagby, can you remove you're muted.
Present.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. Jose, can you give us
My apologies, Mr.
a report out on closed session, please?
Yes, Mayor. The council considered an item of real property negotiations under closed session. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you, Jose. A little technical difficulty here. Give us 1 second, please. Jose, can you say something to give us a mic check real quick?
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Barely. Well, we'll deal with it. We'll keep working on it as the meeting goes. Conflict of interest declarations. Seeing none. Agenda review, any changes or deletions?
Mayor, members of council, staff doesn't have any recommended changes or deletions to the agenda this evening.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to public comments. Any person wishing to speak to the City Council on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any item on the council agenda at the time the item comes up for consideration. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Per City Council policy, 3 minutes are typically allotted to each speaker, and I ask everyone to be respectful because I will keep you to 3 minutes. Any hands on the public in front of us here? Please come forward. We'll start here. Please state your name for us.
Kevin Kostoff. I'm a resident of 605 Lake Street, right off Asti Road. I'm basically here tonight just to formally invite all the council members and any city officials and any community representatives that would like to come out to the 401 project, the Alexander Valley Apartments. We are meeting at 5:30 this coming Monday. We're going to meet right on the street just so that we can kind of walk the property, get to know who all your representatives and who your community members are, and have a little talk about the project. There's going to be no press there, no lawyers there. It's just an opportunity for the Lake Street neighborhood to meet their council members and actually just have a honest dialogue about what is about to happen and what the area around the project looks like. So again, I invite anybody in the community, but I especially invite my council member and my city officials. So that's this Monday, 5:30, 401 Asti Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Jose might want to give us guidance on that.
Yeah, Jose, you want to give guidance on that so that we can let Kevin understand how the Brown Act works and things along those lines as well? Jose, can you hear us?
Jose, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Well, could you repeat that, Mayor?
So the public speaker invited the City Council to come visit the property area.
Yes.
So I was hoping you could kind of explain the Brown Act or how that works for us and what we can technically do.
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you for bringing it up. Obviously, always great invitations to invite the council. The issue is that the Brown Act still applies. If you get a majority of your council, or I'm sorry, even if it's a gathering invitation, and you start talking about city business, which
Hey, Jose, I'm going to have to stop you. We can't hear you at all, and I apologize. I'll do a quick rundown, and Jose, if you tell me if I missed anything, maybe we can get it fixed while we're waiting. The Brown Act doesn't allow more than a majority of the council to meet together at one time and discuss city business. Otherwise, it violates that act because we're actually performing public business out of the public eye. So it's technically a meeting at that point, and if we're discussing things, say I meet with Gus and then Gus meets with Joe and we discuss the same topic, that's also considered what they call a serial meeting. And so we're not allowed to do that either. So if we wanted to have a couple of us come out or whoever that we could do that together, but you couldn't do more than two. Does that make sense, Kevin? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Jose, did I miss anything? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public here that would like to speak first?
We do have some hands up. If there's
Okay. Since there's no one else here, then go ahead and Jill, just run through them, please.
Anne, you can unmute yourself and address the council.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Perry, and I would like to address the council concerning one of the items on your agenda this evening, which is the sale of the fireworks.
And I'm going to stop you right here. I'm going to ask you to bring your comments when we discuss that item, if you don't mind. This is for items that we do not have on our agenda.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, when we do the public speaking or public comment for the fireworks, I would ask you to raise your hand and make your comments at that point.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I see no other hands at this time.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, is that mic getting any better yet? Are we figuring it out maybe?
What's that?
For public comment, is that what they're working on, so we can hear better?
That's what David, I think.
Okay. Well, we'll move forward. The next is proclamations and presentations, and we don't have any. So next is the student liaison report. Guadalupe, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Mayor. There are a few opportunities that students are able to apply to right now.
Got it turned up way too loud.
Sorry about that. All bilingual and bicultural students that are 16 years or older are encouraged to apply to the Youth Promoter Paid Part Internship with the nonprofit organization Latino Service Providers. Additionally, the Citrus Fair Ambassadors Program has extended its application deadline to March 18th. 5 students will be chosen, and the top candidates will receive scholarships varying in price depending on where they score. The County of Sonoma Commission of the Status of Women is seeking applicants for the Junior Commissioner Project for the 2022 to 2023 school year. CSW's goal is to help local youth develop leadership skills, practice teamwork, and meet inspiring female mentors. Applications are due March 28th.
Could you slow down just a little?
Yeah, sorry about that. Other events going on include the Steps to College event, which is February 5th and 12th. On the 5th, it will be a virtual university fair, and the 12th is in person. It will provide information on how to apply to college and access financial aid. FFA students will be having a game night themed chapter meeting this Thursday at 6. I would also like to congratulate Camila Gonzalez, Bramona, Sylvia Navarro, and Tiffany Sosa, who are the students of the month. Congratulations to the CHS cheerleaders who competed in the game day division. They placed first with 93 points and 0 deductions. The girls basketball team won against Lower Lake 58-55. The boys basketball team also won at Lower Lake 75-38. Both the boys and girls basketball teams will be having games this Thursday against Kelseyville and then Friday against Fort Bragg. Our wrestling team is in Middletown today, and they are competing against Lower Lake and Middletown. Best of luck to them, and that concludes my student report.
Thank you, Guadalupe. Any questions from the council? Not seeing any. Thank you. That's a lot of information. We appreciate it. You keep us up to date. Moving to D, consent calendar. Is there any items that the council would like to pull? No? Seeing no. Melanie, shake your head, or Marta, shake your head. Yes or no? Anything?
Mr. Mayor, I see that Annie Perry is still a panelist. We might want to demote her until she's ready to speak on a later item. Bye,
Thank you.
Annie, sorry.
Got it. Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. I appreciate that. Okay. Do we have a motion for consent calendar from anyone?
Mayor, I'd like to move the approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Roll call. Jill, when you're ready.
Councilmember Paula. Vice Mayor Walter.
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Mayor Lands.
Aye. E, communications. Anything, David?
Mayor, no communications.
Other than what we've received already. Public hearing. There's no public hearing. G, here we go. Okay, G1, American Rescue Plan Act.
Mayor, members of council, this item was being brought back to you after discussion at your last meeting. At the last meeting, there was discussion about, in regards to some nonprofit funding, including funding for the Cloverdale Senior Multipurpose Center, as well as local nonprofit La Familia Sana. Included in your packet is a revised and updated funding matrix that identifies the proposed expenditure plan for, in recognition of American Rescue Plan funds. One particular change that we wanted to make note of is, after further review of the final rule that was issued just prior to your last council meeting, there was a determination made that we could bring that revenue in as lost public revenue and consider it as general fund revenue. So it really does relieve some of the burden in terms of reporting and auditing, in terms of the use of those funds by bringing it into the general fund and allocating it as general fund revenue rather than as ARPA funds. So wanted to particularly note that the funds, as we proposed, will still go into a new fund, Fund 260, identifying it as the American Rescue Plan Act Fund. In essence, those funds will be deposited into the general fund. The funding matrix basically shows, again, highlights the council's allocation of those funds based on your spending priorities. So in a way, I want to kind of separate the two. One, that we're receiving the funds, we are going to place those in the budget in a new fund as general fund revenue, but still identifying for council's benefit how how council has identified and prioritized funding of that fund revenue for those various uses that are identified in the funding matrix. We did receive an additional, I distributed an additional funding request that had been brought to the council's attention during the budget session. This was in regards to a funding request that was submitted by the Redwood Empire Food Bank. In April of 2021, Redwood Empire Food Bank had submitted a letter to the city requesting an allocation of 2% of ARPA funds to that organization or nonprofit in support of their food distribution efforts throughout Sonoma County, but in particular Cloverdale. They've made similar requests to all the Sonoma County cities. So I did want to bring that to your attention. If council wanted to entertain that request, there's a couple of options for council, and that does include utilizing what now will be the portion of the ARPA funds that are in your general fund to address their funding request, certainly in entirety or some different amount, or not at all, or to use just additional general fund revenue to address that request. But I did want to bring that forward. We're requested by Councilmember Cruz to consider that. And at the time when it was brought in, or when we received that request, it was something that council indicated they'd like to take up at a later date. So we did want to bring that to your attention. And I did want to note that some of the items on the funding matrix, individual council members may have to recuse themselves because of potential conflicts of interest. Wanted to note that Councilmember Bagby had expressed a potential conflict related to funding for the Cloverdale Senior Center, as well as Councilmember Cruz for certain funding within the funding matrix. So with that, staff's here to address any questions that you may have, and our finance director as well can weigh in on any of the changes that were made to the funding matrix. But again, it was modified to reflect, I think, the discussion that council had and your spending priorities.
Okay. Well, Councilmember Paula, since those two have a conflict, I'll wait and ask these two, Councilmember Cruz and Councilmember Bagby last, just so because I want to see any other comments first, and then I'm going to go to YouTube, and then we can clear it up from there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm fine with the way the metrics is laid out. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to really absorb the food bank's request. I do want to make a comment that I really want, when these funds are distributed to the organizations that we've approved, that there be a well-documented letter that goes with it that indicates this is one-time funding. This is not an annual award. The city's not in a position to ongoing through the general fund. This is one-time monies, and we're allotting some of this money to these important organizations that have served during the COVID period and been totally beneficial, and I support that entirely. But I want to make it clear to them that they can't rely on this as an ongoing funding mechanism. So, but with that, as far as the Redwood Food Bank, I just need a little bit more information on the dollar amount that they're asking for, and I don't have that yet. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm comfortable with bringing the rescue funds into the general fund. And Susie, David,
You're not, you guys, I'm sorry. They're not able to hear you on Zoom.
Okay, well, could you please let them know they need to speak onto the microphone very closely because we cannot hear a thing.
How about now? Can you hear me now, Marta?
Well, I would like to know what Councilmember Paula said. I didn't.
Well, okay, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Joe, you want to repeat that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that's better.
Yes, that's better.
Okay, thank you. What I said is as far as the Redwood Food Bank request, I need to get a little bit more information on exactly what dollar amount they're requesting, and that I do support these one-time allotments because these agencies that we've already made the award to have been very helpful and instrumental to our community throughout this COVID period. And but I want to make it clear in a letter when we release the funds that this is one-time funding. The city does not have the ability for, I don't want them to feel they can depend on an ongoing funding mechanism annually. We used to have programs in place that did that when we had redevelopment. We did community grant awards. We no longer have that. This is one-time ARPA money. And so I want to make sure they understand we're there to help them, but they need to come up with other funding mechanisms that the city's not going to be positioned to award these types of grants on an annual basis. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure, Marta, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, so I'm glad to see that the rescue funds are going to be distributed or housed in our general fund with a special ledger number. And Susie, similar to our cannabis tax that we collect, I do want to see an exact counting of how that money is spent. I just don't want to dump it in there, forget about it, and next thing you know, it's all gone. Councilmember Paula brings up an excellent point. It's one-time money. I'm hoping to be able to use it on some of our infrastructure, the water funds, other capital improvement projects that we have slated to be completed without having to go back to the ratepayers and have another increase. If we could accomplish this $1,800,000 in water, sewer, and park restorations, you know, that would go a long way. It's permanent infrastructure, and it's not day-to-day operations of a nonprofit. So, thank you.
Councilmember Cruz?
Yes, I would like to make sure that Councilmember Paula and Councilmember Walters read thoroughly the letters sent by the Redwood Empire. It is point by point on what was done in Cloverdale during COVID-19 and related. There are two communications, April 2021 and September 2021. And if they provide us a document as of January 2022, they would be able to show how much more the amounts in comparison with past contributions have increased due to COVID-19 in Cloverdale. So I would request that you briefly look at the documents presented by the city manager to all of us regarding the allocation. This is not an everyday or a yearly request for funding on the Redwood Empire. It's based on the expenses strictly and directly to Cloverdale. So I would like that to be reconsidered. Thank you.
Through the chair, just to be perfectly clear on what I said, I wanted to make sure that they understand that the city is using one-time money. There's no question they've been extremely productive and beneficial to our city. That was never part of the discussion. It's just to clarify so there's no misunderstandings. And certainly that won't prevent them from making a request. I just want to make sure that they understand we're using one-time money, that we don't have the ability to guarantee this could be an annual thing. They never said they wanted it. I never suggested that. What I'm saying is it's good to be transparent, lay it out so it's clear to all the individuals that are receiving the award. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Paula. But, you know, the thing is that it is very specific according to ARPA and COVID-19 in their letters to the city of Cloverdale and to the recipients here in Cloverdale. The same thing as with La Familia Sana, the same thing as with the Senior Center. So I think Councilmember Bagby, Mr. Mayor, had the hand up.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to finish. Councilmember Bagby, you're up.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little confused by the comments as well, because according to the email that we were forwarded today, Redwood Empire Food Bank is being very specific. They're saying that they're asking for 2% of our ARPA funds, just like they are with every other city that they're servicing. And in the last sentence of the first paragraph, their funding request for 2% amounts to approximately $40,000.
So that's the specific ask. That's the, they understand it's one time. They're asking for a percentage of our ARPA funds. And honestly, I think it's absolutely appropriate. What I'd like to see us do tonight, honestly, is I would like to see us take reallocate the $40,000 out of the $250,000 that we allocated for the Times Square project. I think that this is a local and immediate benefit. I still don't believe that allocation received adequate public comment and public participation. So I'd like to see us reallocate that $40,000 out of that $250,000 to our to the Redwood Empire Food Bank, because it's a more appropriate use of that money. In addition, I'd love to see the balance of that reallocated to our actual capital improvement program, not going to funding developers who have access for that storm drain money from other sources, from other federal sources. But I'll certainly would like the council to consider reallocating $40,000 of that to Redwood Empire Food Bank.
Thank you, Councilmember Bagby.
Any of that action would be taken today? I cannot participate because I have to recuse myself.
We can't hear you.
Jose, you heard me?
Yes, Mayor, just sound check. Can you hear me, Mayor?
We can barely hear you. And it's not you, it's the equipment inside here, so I have to apologize to everyone.
Kevin's working on speakers.
Kevin's working on it. If we can take maybe 2 minutes here and see if we can fix it. Talk, Jose, for us.
Can you hear me? Is it better now?
Councilmember Cruz, can you say something?
She was mentioning the conflict because Councilmember Bagby mentioned Times Square. So Councilmember Cruz was saying she cannot participate in that conversation, so we couldn't get into it too deeply now without the recusal.
To see if she could hear us and if we could hear her, Jose. Martha, can you hear me?
I can't hear you now.
Okay. She's, I guess everyone out there.
That's better. Yay.
Okay.
Good job.
Jose, can you do a sound check for me, Jose? I think we're going to be good now.
Is this better?
Jose, instruct me when I need to recuse.
Well, I think for this item,
I apologize, everyone.
We're talking about a specific request. If we want to start going down the line, similar to last time, where we handled the items that council members needed to recuse themselves up front and had the public comment for them, if we wanted to go that route, the way I envision this is separate motions. It's still motion for the resolution for the certain parts, and there would be really 3 motions at the end of this item, one of them being for the Times Square, one of them being for the senior center with the proper recusals, and then one of them being for the rest of the allocation chart, which all council members can participate in. Happy to walk through that more.
No, Jose, that's perfect, and we
Sound on it here now, so I appreciate that. So who wants to be recused first? Councilmember Cruz or Councilmember Bagby? First one to turn your screen off wins. There she goes. Okay, so let's discuss her item first, if you guys don't mind, which was
Times Square, 200
Times Square from,
for the sewer project.
for the sewer. Councilmember Paula, I'll let you go first.
I'm not sure what we're discussing. I do not support removing the 40,000 from that fund. That fund's a critical piece to the puzzle to try to help fix the big problem on Washington with the sewer drainage system, the storm drain system, to help get a medical center in place that this city desperately needs. We have a lot of seniors. Also bring up county services for mental health services, and to fix a problem that's impacting our schools, dealing with stormwater that backs up into the school, and at times they've had to close classrooms because of that. So this isn't money that's being used poorly. This is to fix serious community problems and long-term projects to help move them forward. So I do not support changing that. I stand where I am with $250,000 for that project. Thank you.
Councilmember Bagby, go ahead.
Paul, if I may ask a question, where is that project on our capital improvement project list? That is a list of the infrastructure priorities for this community.
It's listed as sewer, $250,000, storm drain installation at Times Square.
Well, sewer isn't storm drain, and I want to know where that project is on our capital improvement project list. Those are lists that have been identified our city engineer and staff as priority infrastructure projects that ARPA specifically is called out as supposed to be aiding. So I would just want to know exactly where on that list that project exists.
It doesn't, Melanie.
It's not on that list, Melanie.
It
never
is not
made
on
it.
that list.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is an important project to the community.
Well, it is an important project, but it isn't a key responsibility for the ratepayers of Cloverdale. It's actually a responsibility of the developers. And that money, this ARPA money, this one-time federal tax money that was, it's not free money. We all paid for it in our taxes. It just simply doesn't meet the criteria of urgency for this community. It's a shame to see money, $250,000 go to two entities who have access to money from federal money and state money from other places. This is precious dollars that should be going to support our food bank and should be going to support our capital improvement projects and priorities that have been identified by professional staff people, and that staff time has been spent on. That's where this precious federal one-time money should be spent. So I would like to see a portion of that reallocated to the Redwood Food Bank and to benefit all of our local residents. And I strongly believe that money should actually be allocated to priorities that are listed on our capital improvement project list, not ones that are pet projects from council members that didn't receive adequate public scrutiny, did not receive scrutiny of a public meeting, did not have the input of the public. It was a unilateral decision that was made, and it is counter to our established community priorities for our infrastructure. The fact is that money can be acquired elsewhere. This ARPA money should be.
Go ahead, Joe.
I don't think it's appropriate for Councilmember Bagby to be basically sharing her opinion of what is the right approach and what this money's intended for. I'm quite aware of what the money's for, and I am.
Hold on, one person talking, please. Councilmember Bagby.
Councilmember.
Can we,
Bagby.
this is
Please,
not
thank
the
you.
topic that's before us right now.
We are on a point of order, so if you would stop talking, Councilmember Bagby, we could hear the first one so I can go to your point of order. No, we have one on the floor. You wait your turn on your point of order for the next one, please. Councilmember Paulus, please. Okay, please mute Councilmember Bagby until the point of order is completed so we can get through it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I say, there is a degree of discretion on how this ARPA money is used. It's laid out in the plan. Certainly, we as the City Council have the authority to put it as long as it fits within those criteria. Storm drainage is one of the areas, as well as water, as well as what we're doing in these reimbursing agencies that were very successfully helped us. And I'm not opposed to helping the food bank. I'm opposed to removing it from an important project that's going to benefit the community long term. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with Councilmember Bagby any further. We can put it back on the agenda and have another vote if the council so chooses, not if Councilmember Bagby chooses, but if the council, as a majority, chooses. But as far as I'm concerned, we've taken an action. It is over. We need to move on. You don't need to like it. You need to accept it and get behind it and make it happen. That's our role as a city council team.
Jill, can you unmute her now so that she can have her chance, and please let her speak.
Okay.
Councilmember Bagby, please, your point of order.
Well, my point of order is that it's not my opinion. It is actually expressed in the staff report, specifically what the ARPA dollars were intended for. It is actually my opinion that this is an example of an ad hoc decision that was pushed through without adequate public input. Those two community partners are absolutely important community partners. However, they have sources for other funding to fund this stormwater issue. And it is their responsibility. Our responsibility, our fiduciary duty as council members is to spend this one-time tax money wisely, to invest it wisely. And we already have an indicator. We've already done the research and we've passed a capital improvement project list. That is our responsibility and that's our priority as council members. We certainly do have some wiggle room and we certainly can make, can make immediate judgments, but that decision, I'm sorry, but there was done in a unilateral manner without adequate public input, especially in light of the fact that we have a itemized a list of projects that have been vetted by professional staff that are the priority development items for the community, for our ratepayers and our taxpayers. And I believe that the right thing to do is to remove that $40,000. It's the least we can do, and allocate that money to the Redwood Empire Food Bank and for this one-time money because they deserve it.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Bagby, I agree with you to the extent that we do need to fund the Redwood Empire, but I don't believe it should come out of that 250. I mean, that's my opinion. I'd like to move forward. I think that 250 was talked about last time, and I believe that we gave instructions to staff that we did want to spend it the way we had it orchestrated to fix that drainage problem at the intersection of Citrus Fair and Washington. That's a constant problem. It constantly floods. We as a city are trying to present or get some medical facilities opened there at that intersection. I know you support that. We're trying to help the school get their gymnasium built and finished, and we're trying to help the Citrus Fair. It's a good use of money. I support it. And perhaps we could look someplace else for that 40,000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. I've been dealing with this for years, and I agree with this 250,000. It's been settled in 2 separate meetings, and so I would like to move forward. Jose, do we want to do a vote on every one of these items individually that we have the recused?
I think, Mayor, we can open it to the public if you would like. That way, after that, you can even make a motion on the resolution for this portion. That way that's done, and then we can move on to the rest of it. Maybe that way we could break it up and be clear on the record who voted and who didn't.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone in the audience first want to comment on this? Seeing none, I see no hands on the attendees list. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the dais. No public comment. Any motions on this portion of it, of the resolution? I would imagine you'll have to read the resolution specific to this, right? Jose, would you want the whole resolution read, or just, how do you want to handle it?
I think it would be a good idea to read the resolution and at the end, just indicate that it is for the Times Square drainage portion.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, the resolution only calls that the funds be brought into the general fund and then to be spent at council's discretion. And we specifically did not include all of this on the resolution so as not to muddy any water. So we can bring it all into, but it's just based on.
Perfect, Susie. Please, Jose, a little on that.
Susie, thank you for reminding me. In that case, since that was more given for the council to know where the general fund is going, I think just making a motion, and then at the end we'll do the resolution, but just making a motion for the money to be allocated is really what we're talking about now, right? So we could just do that here with a motion, Mayor, just a simple motion, not the resolution. I think the resolution then with Susie's explanation, we could do it at the end.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that the $250,000 be allotted for that storm drain improvement project on Washington at Citrus Fair.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Walter,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
No.
Councilmember Cruz,
Recused?
Recused.
Mayor Land,
Aye. Can we get Councilmember Cruz back? Is she in the waiting room, or do you know, did she log off? Let's see. Yes.
I sent her a message to log back on.
Thank you, Jose. Councilmember Bagby, do you want to log off and we'll work on yours now?
Well, actually, before we do, could we have a discussion about Redwood Empire Food Bank request? Because again, clearly they've sent a very reasoned, balanced request of $40,000, which is 2% of our ARPA allocation. So I'm wondering if we want to either discuss it tonight or agendize it for a future meeting.
I agree, Councilmember Bagby, but I would like to
Handle the two recusals first and then come back to that. I'll leave it open for that without, you know, so you're here for the resolution before the resolution so that you can bring that up for sure.
Certainly. So I'll go ahead and log off for a second.
Thank you.
And then we're back on.
Okay, Councilmember Bagby is offline. So now we will discuss Councilmember Cruz. We had the senior center was Councilmember Bagby's recusal.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I'm totally okay with this $25,000 for the senior center. They've done an excellent job over the last 2 years, actually, and I think they're most deserving of this, in addition to what we've already contracted with them for. So I'm okay with that $25,000.
Councilmember Paula, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I also am okay. I think it's well-deserved. They've always stepped right up. They've opened up the senior center for special services. They did the COVID testing outside there. They've just been there every step of the way, and I think certainly they deserve this. So thank you.
Councilmember Cruz, please, your turn.
Yes, I definitely agree with the allocation to the senior center. They have been, hands on site, especially every Monday. Either it rains, it's sunny, it's cold, distributing the Redwood Empire goods to the community. And also I work with them during COVID in distribution with the Sonoma County family meals, as well as with the Council on Aging and all the other programs. In addition, just like Councilmember Powell said, they have been instrumental in making sure to work with other community agencies in providing testing and vaccines, as well as many other programs for the community at large. So you don't have to be a senior to be a member of the senior center. Always, a push for the senior center. So thank you, and yes, I agree on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Cruz.
Public comment. Anyone here want to comment on this? Seeing none, I see no hands on the attendees list. Okay, we'll bring it back to the dais. We have a motion for this one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the $25,000 for the senior center.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Walter.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz, Mayor Land,
Aye. Jose, if we could get Councilmember Bagby back, you can send her a text or someone.
And Mayor, just for the record, Councilmember Cruz recused herself. These are the location. I know we said this before, but just for the record.
The location of her home next to the Times Square potential project that's going to be funded, and also Councilmember Bagby recused herself because she's done work for the senior center.
Thank you, sir.
Just for information for those that are listening, Jose is our city attorney. That's why we go back and forth with him, for those of you that don't know. There she is. All right, Councilmember Bagby is back. Councilmember Bagby, when you're ready, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
Mayor, if I can, just for the council's consideration, it seems what I hear from council is that there is support for funding the Redwood Empire Food Bank at the funding request that they've made of 2%. I do want to note that the ARPA funds are going to be received in 2 tranches, so half of which was received in fiscal year 21-22, and we expect the remaining tranche to be received in fiscal year 22-23. So along that lines, I would recommend that the council consider aligning the support for Redwood Empire Food Bank along that similar lines, maybe breaking it up in $20,000 per year if council supports funding Redwood Empire Food Bank at the $40,000 level. One option for council's consideration in terms of revising the funding matrix that is in your packet is to look at those funds that are included on the matrix that are reimbursing the city for past expenditures in fiscal year 19, 20, and 2021. The city did have some, non-FEMA reimbursable expenses for COVID supplies, and we also expended funds for utility bill relief. If you kind of look at the dollar amounts there, you're roughly 32,000. Well, just right about 33,000 in COVID supplies and about 10,000 in utility bill relief. Those were past expenditures that were going to be reimbursed to the city. So one option would be to reduce those expenditures and to allocate the funding to the Redwood Empire Food Bank in the same amount of the reductions to those funds. So that's an option for council, of course, but just wanted to outline that might be a potential solution that would enable funding Redwood Empire Food Bank, keeping the other expenditures whole, but reducing, again, it will impact our general fund to the extent that we incurred these expenses and they were reimbursing them, but it would enable council to fund again, to support the funding decision that's presented to you tonight.
Councilmember Bagby, I'll let you go first on this one, please.
I'll wait.
Okay. Councilmember Cruz, any comments on this, brother?
I already gave my comment.
Councilmember Paula?
No, I support it. I think it's an important expenditure. I mean, I wish we could fund everybody that has participated, but I think the food bank, they're there with a lot of food for a lot of needy people, and I think we want them there to continue to be here for that purpose, and so I think I definitely support their request.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I thought you were going.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just wondering if we're going to open it to public comment.
As soon as we're done here, yeah, absolutely. Vice Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, David, let me understand this correctly. You're looking at the COVID supplies, 23,000, and then you're looking at the COVID supplies for 9,400, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the utility bill relief for 1920, 2021, if you kind of added that up, you're right about 43,000. So it wouldn't necessarily, there would still be some remaining contributions of ARPA funds to those expenses, but would enable council to reduce those funding amounts to fund if we added Redwood Empire funding.
Okay. And how about the broadband at City Hall, Police Department, and Courtyard? Did I not understand that we had submitted for a grant on that, or am I getting that confused with another grant?
The city staff has not submitted a grant application for broadband services. We did explore that concept, and it was our research and following up with the league in terms of reviewing the CPUC regulations was that the funding for broadband services was not going to be extended to town or city projects for city-related improvements, but we're going to be geared towards community improvements. But that does, again, present an opportunity if you wanted to use that, reduce that fund to use a portion of that proposed expenditure to fund Redwood Empire Food Bank as well.
Well, I would say let's go ahead and use the 23 and the 9 and pick up the balance from the broadband is what I would recommend. So
that might open up comments. So Councilmember Cruz, go ahead.
Could you repeat what Councilmember Walters said? I couldn't understand.
So Councilmember, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Martha, I apologize for not being more articulate. But under the 2021, the city spent $23,719 for COVID-related supplies. And then the year 19 to 20, we spent $9,473. Those were already paid for out of the city general fund. So we just would not be reimbursed for that. And that money would go towards the Redwood Food Bank. It would roughly be about $33,000, and then the difference we would pick up from the broadband, which is now $162,000, so to probably lower it to about $155,000. Okay? Did that make it clearer?
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Please,
Councilmember, go ahead.
Sorry, and an advantage of removing it from broadband would be what? And the direction I'm going in, Gus, asking the question is, why wouldn't we just pick up the balance from general fund?
I'm fine with that.
I think your recommendation is a really good one, but yeah, I would support leaving broadband alone and just picking up that difference from the general fund, because it's just a couple of $1,000.
Yeah, no, I'd be fine with that. But if we were trying to stay to the $2,700,000 and keep it under that same umbrella of fund account number 260, we'd have to show, somehow Susie's going to have to handle how that looks on paper.
Yeah, you anticipated my next comment, which was, I know she's not going to want to do the reporting by making the donation directly from ARPA funds. She's going to want to do her magic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was helpful.
I'm going to open up to public comment. Anyone?
No hands.
No hands? We'll bring it back to the dais. I understand Susie's job. It seems like we're taking money out of the left pocket, putting it in the right pocket, and saying I'm that much richer. So I think if you guys want to allocate money to Redwood Empire Food Bank, we just do it and let Susie and David figure it out like we just did 2 weeks ago for everyone else, and it's going to have the same outcome. This is my fear, and it's not a bad thing because I support every one of these programs, but this is a floodgate when you start giving big chunks of money that they'll keep coming, and I'm okay with it. We just need to be cognizant that when we give $75,000 to one group, as much as we support them, we're going to get more requests, and we all support the people that will be requesting. So I see a hand in the public, so I would like to see who it is, since no one has been talking, and I went through it quick. If it's somebody that, if you don't mind, I don't know who he is, so if we could bring him in. He keeps raising his hand.
David, can you hear us? If you can't, please unmute.
Can you hear me okay? This is David Goodman.
You're right.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the conversation, the lively conversation. I am a Hungry Relief worker at the Redwood Empire Food Bank, as well as the CEO. And I just want to comfort you just a little bit in this discussion that you can think about this conversation more as an investment, that in terms of this contribution that you would be making, this support, from an investment standpoint, it's 5 times. For every dollar that you're investing, you would be getting $5 just in terms of cost. And if you're talking about the groceries distributed, the investment that you would be making is 25 times. So for every dollar that you contribute to the Redwood Empire Food Bank in support of the work we've been doing, $25
goes to the people of Cloverdale who are in need of food assistance. This year, we'll distribute about 655,000 meals in Cloverdale alone. All this discussion, all the funds we're talking about are to remain in Cloverdale. This is not a Sonoma County-wide issue. Nobody lives in county-wide. People live in Cloverdale. And so I just want to thank you for your support, the lively discussion. I understand that there's no shortage of worthy causes, but the difference between hunger and everything else is that hunger is urgent. Hunger happens 3 times a day at a minimum. So our issue, no shortage of worthy causes, but nothing good happens when people are hungry. So thank you for your time and attention and support. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Seeing none from the council, I appreciate your time, David, and appreciate your comments. Okay. We have another one now. Go ahead. Bring her up. Angela, can you hear us? Please unmute.
Yes. Hey, Angela, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I can hear you now. Angela Cordova. I am very active in helping families in Cloverdale with meals, gift cards, all that kind of thing. And I too am very supportive of any decisions regarding any funds to help food banks and food resources and wherever it's coming from, as long as it stays in Cloverdale and the funds are allocated here, I 100% support that. I can't tell you how many families and even just individuals, seniors, it doesn't matter. You know, hunger doesn't discriminate. So it's really, really important that we keep all of our resources here and our funds allocated here. And I thank all of you that continually support that. It's very important, especially to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Can you remove David and Angela, Jill? Thank you so much. We'll bring it back to the dais. Any other comments? Seeing none from council members on the screen. Okay. Can we go forward with the resolution if we're not complete? You're okay with that? We're good? Is it going to be modified in any way?
Staff is not proposing or recommending modification of the resolution. We just wanted to make sure that the funding matrix aligns with council's priorities and preferences. I think we've heard that direction tonight. Both the finance director and myself will make the necessary adjustments to reflect the direction by council. And our recommendation this evening is to adopt the resolution that would bring the funds into the general fund.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to read the resolution by title only, if I can. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 adopted budget establishing Fund 260 Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, CSLRF, incorporating $1,035,350 to the CSLRF Fund, Fund number 260-00-000-36620-000, and appropriating the CSLRF fund based on the American Rescue Plan Act funding plan matrix.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a roll call?
Councilmember Paula?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby? Aye. Councilmember Cruz? Aye. Mayor Lance?
Aye. Okay. Moving forward, G2, consider amending previous decision to purchase a prefabricated Portland Loo restroom to traditional restroom for the Cloverdale City Plaza. David?
Mayor, our Assistant City Manager, Community Development Director is going to report out on this item. Kevin? And Jill, is Hector Galvan in the audience? by any chance?
Mayor, Council, is this working? Mayor, council members, this item is a discussion of the proposed restroom facility at City Plaza. This item has been recommended from the Public Works Subcommittee. Back in February of 2020, the council did provide direction to purchase a Portland loo and go ahead with the site work that was needed to accommodate that facility. The thought here at the Public Works Subcommittee was that we should re-examine that, and that maybe a more traditional bathroom would be a better fit for the City Plaza. Your report does include a few different models that we've come up with. There are other models, but these are ones that did come highly recommended. We do have some cost estimates in your packet. You can see it's more money for the traditional bathroom. We do currently have $175,000 in the budget that was going to be used for the Portland loo. So we are seeking direction by motion to come back with a budget amendment if the council would like to choose the more traditional bathroom. We recommend going on more of the higher side on the estimate. I did speak to the manufacturer today, and you can see there's different types, and some look better than others, obviously, but we couldn't really drill down on an actual price for some of the nicer features, but the base price is in your staff report. They did seem a little flexible on the pricing, so if directed, we will return at the next council meeting with a budget amendment to increase the 175 in the current budget to probably around 274. And I'm saying it may not take that much, but that would cover the highest price that it possibly would be. Another update is that we did engage with Mo Engineering last week, Hector and I, to start getting some bid specs together to get the sewer and water over to the site, because that's part of it's kind of a two-phase thing. We're going to have to take that to bid for the sewer and water, and then the purchase of the actual unit, it comes in completely constructed and they drop it in with a crane. So again, we're looking for direction if you'd like to change course here and go towards a more traditional bathroom.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's see, Councilmember Cruz, you can start this time. Okay. Councilmember Bagby.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little confused because I actually kind of thought this was a done deal. And I know that, and so I just was wondering what was the impetus for changing course?
I'd have to ask Kevin or David because this was before me.
Go ahead. Through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Be sure to speak into the microphone. I will. I'll try my best. We discussed it in length at the Public Works Subcommittee, and the concern that I had, and I raised the concern at the committee, was the Portland loo is pretty much it's the location in the center of the park where it was set to go, coupled with Friday Night Live, and the park is very, very full of a lot of people. It's not conducive of privacy in the sense where you would think a person would want to use a restroom facility, and it's a single stall. And so people would be basically, it's open on the bottom, it's open on the top, and I think, in my opinion, a more traditional with two separate restroom facilities behind the stage, well-mounted, kind of like we did up at the Vintage Meadows Park, would be more appropriate for a restroom facility, especially when you have 1,000+ people at any given time on a Friday night in the plaza. So we talked about it, we weighed it, went back and forth, and I do want to just make mention the bid that I looked at, it's in your packet, is dated 2019. I'm not really convinced that that's still a good price, because I had an article that I read where Santa Rosa just installed one in their plaza downtown. Again, they don't have Friday Night Live out there like we do, but it was over $260,000 for that installation. So it's in the news, it was in the Press Democrat. So anyway, that's the background on how we went through a conversation.
Kind of a, this was pretty thoroughly vetted. That's why I'm kind of surprised that it's, being hauled back for reconsideration. And especially because I think that the reason that we kind of originally were considering the Portland Loo is because it is less expensive and it is movable. I mean, I completely agree. I would love to see one of those beautiful, for lack of beautiful bathrooms that are in the packet. But I think that the Portland Loo was considered sort of temporary and lower cost for the reason that the plaza is really kind of a location that is going to be in flux. I mean, the final design of the plaza certainly, has not been realized. I mean, we know that we desperately need a new police department. We know that we desperately need a new city hall. Both of those buildings are like, they're really, they've reached their end of life, to put it mildly. And so I'm a little hesitant to support a permanent bathroom, even though I support there being a permanent bathroom at the plaza and having really great facilities for Friday Night Live. But the fact that, the plaza is really not in it'll never be in its final iteration. I'm just a little hesitant to approve in investing in a building that may not fit in with a future redesign of that space. So I'm hoping that there are folks from the Arts Alliance and interested party from Friday Night Live who can weigh in, because it was kind of, I thought that the Portland Loo was to kind of hold us over until we can get a good redesign for that space ultimately. So that's why I was asking. It's like, well, what precipitated this change of course?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was originally, and I still am, on the Public Works Subcommittee when we started talking about the Portland Loo. And the features to me were the fact that it was easy to clean. We could have better security on a Portland Loo than bricks and sticks. But over time, the model that I like right now is in your packet. It's number C4, and it's bricks, it's mortar. You got two bathrooms on either side of a wash facility. So when you come out, you can wash your hands. If somebody just wants to go wash their hands, they can do that without having to wait for a stall to open. So I'm supportive of that. And from what I understand, Kevin, did we look to see if this was somewhat movable? Did we talk about that? That was something we were going to ask.
I would have to double check that. I mean,
Yeah.
it does come pre-assembled, so
Right.
there may be some opportunity, but I'd have to check with the manufacturer on that.
Okay. And also, Melanie, as far as the redesign of the plaza, I mean, my God, I've lived in Cloverdale since 1995, and we've been redesigning that plaza. And people are getting off the bus, and they're looking for a restroom to use. We have to send them over to the chamber. The ladies at City Hall, they're disrupted in their work because people want to come in and use the restroom. Nobody cleans up after themselves. I think we got to get something in there now. And exactly how it's going to be located behind the stage, I think we're still going to have some conversations about that, how far back it goes. But that could be part of the redesign, just where it is, where we're going to be putting it. So, yeah, I'm in favor of changing it, and let's get this project going. We've been fooling with it forever. Thank you.
Councilmember Cruz?
I am too very surprised about this change, because it shows that perhaps there was wasted resources of staff time, research, discussion, And what is it with our public works crew? You know, this is another job, and you require much more than what originally thought with the Port Lou. And I mean, I respect, I understand all these things, but this is the way it is. It's not for somebody to go and sit there and spend their time, or go freshen up and clean up, put makeup on, change clothes, whatever. This is just a quickie. And I'm just surprised and disappointed because, you know, when I chair the Public Works also, we discussed this at length. And here we go again. You know, it's just like the same thing with many other things that have been decided upon, and it's brought back and it's changed, and we continue to rehash and rehash and rehash and waste resources. Just my thought.
Thank you, Councilmember Cruz. Like I said, this is from February of 2020 is when this was first brought here. I was not part of the discussion, but I'm glad I am now, because I was anti-Portland Lou back in the day, because it is an absolute waste of money. You have one toilet for approximately $300,000 to $400,000 by the time it is done. No matter what the numbers say here, that's what it's going to cost. So you have one stainless steel toilet that you can use in the downtown. Councilmember Cruz used a good word, quickie. That is a lot of what goes on in the Portland Lou's in a lot of our cities. It is not a good thing. If you make something that costs a lot of money, I would do it right the first time. And so you put in 2 bathrooms for approximately the same cost that have the ability to be semi-private and can be locked and maintained by our city staff, like the ones at our park. And you're gonna get 2 bathrooms for about 30% more by the time you're done. So if we're going to do it, and the other thing, my comment 2 years ago, that's a lot of porta potties. I rent a lot of porta potties, and it costs about $300 a month for one. Think about how many months we can have nice, clean porta potties, as many as we want out there, for this cost. I understand they're not pretty, but this is a lot of money for a little low-income town for a bathroom. I'm going to open it up to public. Do we have any comments in the public? No. Please come forward right here. Please state your name.
Signing in, or we?
Nope, you're just going to say your name for the record for me.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Councilmember Paula, City Managers, Chief, good to see you, City staff. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it. I too was a part of the discussion on those subcommittees about the Portland Lou. I think if you could all bring your focus back to what those conversations really were intended for. It was to find a restroom for, like Councilmember Walter states, folks getting off the bus, our homeless population. It was never intended to be a discussion in respect to a Portland Lou for Friday Night Live patrons. From my understanding, Friday Night Live patrons have restrooms they can use. In respect to portable units, you know, okay, I could agree with a portable unit so long as it's open. I don't see the point necessarily in having those units down there stinking up the place, and 9 times out of 10 they're locked. Costs. Boy, please, with all due respect, I think that's your biggest issue. How about some straight numbers, folks? Mr. Mayor, again, with all due respect, I think that it's a bit of an issue when you're sure that it's to cost $300,000 or $400,000, but I got some guys over here saying, look, this is our cost. I agree, man, cost is important. The redesign of the plaza, no, I don't think that should be taken into consideration. I think the priority is finding somewhere to use the restroom. For folks that are really going to use the restroom every day, all day long. Mr. Walter makes some good points about going into the chamber, going into City Hall. I've seen that. That's not okay. So, you know, as a community member, I'd get behind the Portland Lou. Or again, if we could make the porta potty thing work, an inexpensive and a viable option that's easy to clean, that focuses on really the patrons that are going to use it. That's where we need a restroom. That's why we need one in the plaza. So something cheap, something easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else in the public? I see one hand, two hands raised. Jill, if you don't mind. Nope, good, thank you.
Angela, go ahead.
Hold on 1 second, Angela. You all of a sudden the sound went away.
Angela, we can't hear you. Are you talking into your mic? 'Cause, here,
Let me turn it up. Here, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I think that the Portaloo, that's a total waste of money. I think if you have that much money to spend on a toilet, you can go in and upgrade our police department, upgrade our city hall, whatever it is you have to do. There's a lot you could do for $300,000 to upgrade our city, and I don't think a toilet is the answer. That's all.
Thank you, Angela. I see one more hand. You get a chance, Jill, whenever you're ready. Reese, go ahead.
Hi, this is Jamie Lyons, Cloverdale. I would like to, first of all, second that a lot of time and effort was put into the consideration of the Portland Loo. I think it is probably a valuable service to the entire community to have a public restroom in such a type of fashion that can be portable and can be moved and relocated as necessary for future uses. I do agree the Portland Loo is safe, it is clean. The walls are made to be graffiti proof, whereas if you're looking to put a permanent structure up, the city is going to have to maintain possible graffiti on those walls. And I do disagree with Mayor Lands. Quickies can happen just as easily in permanent structures. In fact, they do happen quite often. I've lived in several cities where I've seen that issue. And the thing with the Portland Loo is it does provide privacy, but it doesn't provide so much privacy that a permanent structure allows people to do things that you don't really want to have happen other than just going in and simply going to the bathroom. So I would support keeping the decision of the Portland Loo. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more hands, Jill?
No.
Chief, do you mind chiming in on this? I know you guys take care of Vintage Meadows Park. I want to know if there's any issues or how it works out for you.
Fairville Park also.
Oh, Fairville Park as well? Okay, perfect. Please.
And Mayor, if I can just share with you that Hector Galvan has joined us. He's our park superintendent. We can bring him in to a panelist if you would like to ask our park superintendent any maintenance related questions.
For sure, thank you. I'm glad he's here. Go ahead, Chief. No, we'll start with you, please, Chief.
This is a very frustrating experience for me. I'm going to have to be voting on something I can't even hear what this question is about.
Well, we're all talking into our mics and we're getting headaches in here from talking so loud, so I don't know what we can do. I apologize, Councilmember Cruz. Okay, Chief, please go ahead.
I think what you're asking is whether or not we have some problems with those areas in the restrooms. And although I don't have specific numbers for you today, I can certainly get those. But I will tell you, we have on occasion had calls over there to deal with individuals in there and things that are taking place in there. So I'd be more than happy to provide those to you if that's something you have. I just don't have those numbers for you today.
Don't need specifics, just wanted to hear your input.
Yes.
Hector, good evening. Can you please unmute yourself and tell us about the maintenance portion of the bathrooms and your ideas of what we have presented?
Mr. Mayor, City Council members and staff, the intent of having both options was simply just to give you guys an idea of just to give you guys a couple options. It was never intent to choose one. I mean, obviously we got to choose one, but we just wanted to give you guys some options. As far as maintenance go, both restrooms are graffiti proof. The Portland Loo and the traditional restroom. Me and my staff are going to be the ones to be maintaining both facilities. And honestly, the price difference is not that much of a. I don't have the exact numbers with me. I just went out to came back from picking up my daughter from basketball practice. So, but anyways, I don't have those numbers with me here, but I know that the difference, it's not that big of a difference between the two units.
In front of us to work off of, so we appreciate your comments.
Just, Mr. Mayor, and also just want to make one comment, and maybe the chief could allude to this. I know the restrooms are locked at night in the parks at a certain time. Certainly that would apply to these restrooms as well. Yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to kind of reiterate what Councilmember Paula had said. They do lock them at night. They do unlock them in the morning. When we first started discussing this, going back to 2019, 2018 with the Portland Lou, our concern was mischievous behavior happening in that plaza after dark. And we had already agreed that surveillance cameras would be shining on that all night long. And the dispatchers would be able to monitor any going on there. But I'd like the one particular, and Councilmember Cruz, I understand your concerns that we had already talked about the Portland Lou. From an expense standpoint, we get two for the price of one. And I like the model number 4C, where the wash basin and water fountains are outside the facility. So when you go into the restroom, you're in there to do one thing, and then you come out and wash your hands, and the turnaround would be a lot faster. So, I'm all for changing it, and I'd like to see number C4 be the final selection for the council. Thank you.
Councilmember Cruz?
Councilmember Cruz, Mayor Lands is calling on you. Do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bagby.
Ultimately, we definitely need a restroom of some kind in downtown for the public to use. But it's been my experience when I go to, Wednesday night on the Green in Windsor, or go to other, concerts, in city centers or big events, they usually end up locking their bathrooms. The city, usually ends up locking the public bathrooms because the events have to provide porta potties, because it's just, it's a cleanliness and it's a security issue. So, of the three designs, I have to agree with Councilmember Walter that I think that would be the best design. I definitely have some, concerns though long-term, because I'm just wondering what's going to happen when we do, get the redesign, which has happened. We have had a change of use since we've both lived here, Gus. The fire department doesn't have to be able to exit through the plaza as an alternative exit for fire engines anymore, because they got their building built. So the use has changed, even though it just was one thing, but progress a little bit at a time. So yeah, I definitely would lean toward the Portland View for the security issues that I think that it's a better solution for that location. But if it's the will of the council to put something permanent in, I could definitely go with that. It gets 4C, attachment 4C. I also like the idea of just there being a hand washing station for people. I think that's great to be able to provide. Even if we do end up having to lock the bathrooms during, downtown events and provide porta potties, which I think that is just a more typical practice when you have, 1,000 people at an event or something like that. I think that's probably what we're going to end up doing. So, but with that, I do like that last design. It's a good compromise. If we're not going to go with the Portland Low, is go with that attachment 4C.
doing that. We have to stop locking the bathrooms during special events. They're there for the public to use. If we require them to have more porta potties, that's fine. But those bathrooms are to be used, and I don't like it when we lock them for Friday Night Live. I don't like it when we put trash cans over our trash cans. People should be able to use them, and the event holders should be given the keys to the trash cans to get them all emptied and pay a little something for us to clean the bathrooms. But they should be opened. To build new bathrooms and not let people use them is not right.
So the next step, it sounds like we have, I would support the same thing as Vice Mayor Walter. So my question is do we want to get a solid price before we make a decision on this? Or Councilmember Paula, if you have more to say, please.
Well, no, thank you. I just wanted to offer my support for 4C as well. I think, you know, I'm still under the mindset they're modular, they're permanent, but they could be moved if we need to move them down the road because they're brought in and set down. So I just want to make a comment on the redesign of the plaza. I mean, that was pie in the sky about 15 years ago when we had redevelopment funds and we had redevelopment agency and we had good plans to do all that. Unfortunately, when redevelopment went away, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And quite frankly, I think these restrooms would be pretty worn out before we get to the point where we're redesigning and doing that. So I'm hopeful we can build a new police department well before that. But I don't see the park redesign taking place anytime in the near future. So I think I support.
So is council direction to ask staff to bring back a solid price on 4C?
I'd like to bring back a plan to implement this. We talk about it as we talk and talk and talk. I'd like to get them done.
Get the solutions.
Yeah. So I'd like to have
cost and
let's get it laid out,
done.
Bring it back for adoption, and we move on. That's my recommendation.
Any other comments? Melanie or, okay, thank you. Hector, I see your hand up. Is that current?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, City Council members and staff, I just want to give you guys some clarification. Both units are mobile. So you can actually move if we decide to in the future, either of the units.
Perfect, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Actually makes it an easier decision, I think, for everyone.
Mayor, members of the council.
I just need to make a quick comment to Hector. Thank you for sharing because it would be either building around a bathroom or building around a tree, right?
Yes.
Seeking to outline, I think what I hear is council direction. There's support for moving away from the Portland to a traditional restroom, of course, with the 2 units. I think the preference is the model that contains the basin on the exterior of the restroom. And I think that's the reason why it's a lower cost than the other model, is because the other model has a multiple, you're paying for 2 basins rather than 1, and associated, connections, water connections and utility connections. So what I hear the direction of council tonight is a preference for the traditional restroom type. What staff will do is firm up the budget numbers around that option. We are still seeking a cost estimate for the preparation of bid specs and project management from an engineering firm. So we'll include that cost in the total project budget, bring that back by way of a budget adjustment for council's consideration. If council supports, we'll just put that on consent for council's approval to establish the budget. And really the budget's going to be the difference between what's already in the budget that was based on the work for the Portland Loo and the additional costs that were associated with the traditional restroom type.
I think that'd be great. We can always pull the item if we want to discuss it, so thank you. Okay, moving forward. Jill. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a special request. Could we please replace at least one of these drinking fountains with a water bottle refill station?
add that in and get it scoped out with the bathroom for sure. We all nodded on that one, so we gave the same direction, so thank you. Jill, you can remove Hector whenever you're ready. Thank you. And thank you, Hector. Do we want to break before the next item? Yes, 5 minutes. 5-minute break. We'll be back at 7:37. We'll be back to order at 7:37. Next item, G3. Review and consider options regarding the sale, possession, and use of fireworks and public display of fireworks in the city of Cloverdale, including the placement of a ballot measure on an upcoming election.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to present this item to you tonight. I want to just take this opportunity just to give a little bit of background for council, but in particular the community. I know there's a lot of interest in this particular agenda item. Let's talk about the different types of fireworks just real quickly, so we're kind of on the same page, because I think there's a lot of confusion or misunderstanding. First of which is just to start with safe and sane. Sometimes that's a moniker. It can be used for maybe a brand name, but really what that's referring to is state-approved fireworks for personal use. Those are the kinds of fireworks that, where permitted, if there's a fireworks stand, customers can purchase those fireworks for personal use. They're considered legal within the state. They are regulated and controlled or managed by state regulations under the California Health and Safety Code. Of course, there are also what we refer to as professional pyrotechnics. That's often what you see at your larger 4th of July or Independence Day celebrations, or larger events around New Year's, often performed by cities, and they utilize, again, those really what are professional pyrotechnics, and those are usually managed by a team of pyrotechnic professionals that really understand how to ensure the safety of their use. And then last but not least, there are illegal fireworks, and these are fireworks that are not permitted by the state of California or any local jurisdictions. They're usually bought or purchased on the black market. Those are not permitted really anywhere in the state of California, but they do make their way into our state, and we often hear them or see them during various celebrations, whether it's the 4th of July or Independence Day. Really what we're talking about today is the provisions within the Cloverdale Municipal Code, which enables the sale of safe and sane fireworks. Again, these are the legal fireworks, and traditionally they are sold by nonprofit groups because they enable those nonprofit groups to raise funds for various purposes. The Muni Code also does touch on the public display of fireworks, and it defines it as a means of entertainment feature where the public is admitted or permitted to view, again, these larger displays. So a little bit about the context for this item. I think there's been a lot of past discussion in the past about the sale of safe and sane in our community. There has been changes made to the municipal code by city councils in the past that have put in place additional regulations and requirements that pertain to the safe and sane fireworks. But over the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years, last 4 years in particular, we've also seen a particular interest in this matter increase. And I think that's a reflection of some of the concerns around fire, around some of the public safety power shutoffs that we've experienced. We've seen these fires result in evacuations in our community. But with that, I do want to note that these fire events have been largely related to causes outside of the city. They're not because of fireworks, but nonetheless, it kind of heightens the concern of the community around fires, and I think some of that concern starts to have a focus on fireworks. And so again, this is, I think, what's kind of brought it to you this evening is some of that fear and some of that concern around fires, and and the kind of connection that folks make between the use of fireworks and fires. And so, again, I think everybody has a different perspective on that, and I hope we're, as we discuss this tonight, we're just mindful of that, it's a sensitive topic, and I realize there's a lot of emotions and perspectives around fireworks. But we're bringing this to you tonight because there has been a consideration and concern around, what are some options that we can look at to address both the concerns of the community members that would like to see safe and sane fireworks prohibited, but likewise members of our community who would like to see fireworks continued, either the sale of safe and sane or public works or a larger, again, the larger display. So what our goal was with staff was to really lay out some options for council's consideration that could address how the council may want to provide additional guidance regarding fireworks. One option for council is to consider an ordinance that would amend the municipal code that would prohibit the sale of safe and sane. So that's right now, all jurisdictions in Sonoma County now prohibit the sale of safe and sane fireworks, but they do continue to permit the public display, and I think we see that across Sonoma County. Most cities that prohibit sale of safe and sane do continue to provide in some form a public display, and I realize often there's a connection between those two activities. Another option, and it's always available to you under your current framework, is when conditions arise. For instance, if there is a significant concern because around the 4th of July we may, for example, experience high wind events, and we know often sometimes those high wind events create conditions that are favorable to fires and creates a more risky environment around using any kind of fireworks. So if that's envisioned or we expect that those conditions to be present, the council does have the opportunity to prohibit fireworks in any one particular year, so that you have that discretion now should you determine that the conditions warrant to limit their use on a particular yearly basis. Third, and I think this is where there's a tremendous interest in the community, is to consider whether to place a ballot measure before the voters of the community to kind of have a final say on what's an outcome relative to fireworks regulations. So what we've presented to you in the agenda report is a couple of options. One is to actually place a measure before the voters that would prohibit the sale, possession, and use of fireworks within the city of Cloverdale. That would enable the voters to kind of have, a final say, a kind of an up or down vote, if you will, on whether fireworks will be allowed or whether they would be prohibited within our community. Along that lines, you could also put forward a ballot measure that gives council an advisory vote. An advisory vote serves just as that, as kind of advice to kind of see where the community stands, but it's not binding by any means. It just provides you kind of the feedback in terms of really where the voting community stands. And then last but not least is, really to continue with the status quo, and that's, no change. You can continue to permit the sale of safe and sane and allow their use, subject to the current regulations that are provided in your municipal code. And of course, you could also, just amend your municipal code as you see fit to, address or redress those regulations in a manner that you see might be necessary to ensure that they are continued to use safely. So tonight, really, we just wanted to outline those options for council. Included in your packet is a fairly detailed information that was prepared by our city attorney around the placement of a ballot measure and the timing associated therewith. our city attorney, of course, is present and will be happy to discuss that in more detail. But we thought maybe you council may want to deliberate on some of the options that have been presented to you tonight, and then we can talk in more detail, depending on what council's preference are around, particularly if council's tendency is to lean towards placing a ballot measure before the voters. So I'll kind of pause there. Just really wanted to kind of outline the options that are presented in the agenda report, see if council has any questions or comments of staff at this time, and open up the conversation.
Before we get going, I want to remind everybody that this is a very passionate subject for a lot of people. I demand respect from everyone and respect for each other. When you comment, please. Whether you're on Zoom or you're in our public, you're going to have your 3 minutes. Please be respectful of everyone else, even if they disagree, because in the end, we're all still here in Cloverdale together. So with that, I will start with our own council. Councilmember Bagby, if you would like to go first.
Nothing to add to the staff report.
Councilmember Cruz.
No, I think this is the second time around while I've been on council, so nothing to add.
Councilmember Paula.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing in the way of questions at this point or comments. I hold my comments till the end. Thank you.
I'm good with the staff report, Mr. Mayor. I'm fine with the situation exactly as it is. So I'm fine. I have no questions.
Jose, would you like to go?
And as far as for me, Mayor, I think that they've covered a lot of the items. If the council has questions regarding the options, regarding going out to the voters, elections, I'm happy to answer those questions when they come up.
Perfect. Then let's move on to that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Jose, as long as you're entertaining questions, you know, one of the options on the ballot initiative is an advisory vote or a straight up and down vote. So could you just explain to me, I don't see any sense in doing an advisory vote because it's still at the discretion of the council. So I don't know what sense it would make for us to even, if we come to putting it on the ballot, if we're going to, why would we do an advisory vote?
And Vice Mayor, the reason we put that as an option as well, because it is an option. I know last time the council talked about it. The reason why it's on the agenda is because the council asked for options regarding placing it on the ballot. When the council asked for options, the term advisory measure came up, and we wanted to make sure to cover that. But you're absolutely right. An advisory measure really just asks the voters kind of for advice. It puts it out there, and you get the results, but you're not bound by those results. The council still has the discretion. It's a way of polling, really, but it's very formal through the vote. But at the end of the day, just like you pointed out, Vice Mayor, that's only advisory. Council still has the discretion to either go with what the vote was or go a different direction, as opposed to your other city-sponsored ballot measures, which could enact an ordinance. And just on that, since I'm on that topic, just remembering, if you put something on the ballot like an ordinance enacted by the voters, the only way to modify it or end it or modify it in any way is to go back to the voters. So just wanted to make that for the city-sponsored measure. Make that note.
Thank you. Well, do we want to start the discussion on how we would want to handle this?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I could, why don't we just cut to the chase? I'd like to recommend that
Turn on the microphone.
I got it. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just cut right to the chase and choose option number 4, which is keep current regulations in place as they are now.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could, unfortunately, I can't support that. You know, I'm not trying to take a side on whether we keep fireworks or not, but there's a large number of people in this community that would like to see them banned. And I think that their feelings need to be heard as well. So I'm more in favor of putting it on the ballot. I don't think we should do an advisory. I think we should just let the people weigh in. And if it passes, it becomes the law of the city. And if we want to change it, the people need to weigh in to change it. The downside of having an advisory is we, as a council, would follow that advice, but a future council can decide to change it without going back to the people. So, you know, we represent the people as a whole. I think they have a right to weigh in on such an important topic because there's no middle ground. I mean, either you have them or you don't. There's no in between. So I feel that we really need to respect that and let them weigh in, and it falls the way it falls. Thank you.
Councilmember Cruz.
You know, this is an issue, just like the water rate increase. It's been kicking the can down the road for years now. I think it's time that we make a stand and say the yay or nay. And we know how this community feels. It's very strong for it and very strong against it. So, I mean, this has been discussed over and over and over again. It's time either we make a decision as a council, you know, take the bull by the horns, or we go ahead and vote.
Ballot initiative?
On a general election, not independent from, you know, just on general election, if we're going to vote, yay or nay. But I think the council needs to have the stand and say yes or no. 3 of you have been in this council, seen this more than 3 times already.
More than that.
Councilmember Bagby.
Yeah, as far as, you know, commenting on the staff report and commenting on, you know, where the other council members are, I guess, you know, I think that this is our responsibility as the elected officials, the community that sent us here, is to take their public input, take information off of the staff report, and also, you know, our extensive knowledge. I mean, all of us have lived through, you know, 2017, 2019, the PSPSs. We've heard from people who are very passionate about this issue on both sides. But I think what it comes down to me is that this is one day. And it's one day where we celebrate the creation of our democracy. And it's really unfortunate that occasionally, you know, it's devolved into, well, if you don't like it, you're not welcome here. Or, you know, well, it devolves into personal insults, and it's not necessary. I look at it also from the perspective of how much it would cost us to put it on the ballot and how much staff time we have to manage this. You know, our staff is absolutely down to bare bones. And this is not, it's not as big an expense as some of the other items that we've discussed tonight, but it's one more thing that we would have to put on the ballot and ask staff to manage on an election when, you know, I think we got elected to make this decision and to cast this vote. So I would prefer option 1. And I know that there are lots of members from the public who want to weigh in as well. So I'm certainly interested in hearing their input and where they are. But, you know, I think that at the end of the day, that it is our responsibility to take a vote on this and not push off, you know, and not push off votes that we don't, you know, that we feel uncomfortable about taking a stand on. So, you know, I'm ready to vote on it this evening. But I'm not really in favor of putting it on the ballot and spending money to do something that I think is our responsibility. But I'd be happy to hear, you know, from the public as to, you know, what their preference is.
Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. I'll say a little bit right now. I'll say that I think that we already have the power as a council to make the hard decisions when they're necessary in our ordinance. We've seen it to where we can choose when we are in a high fire danger, red flag warning on the July 4th, that we don't sell them for those 4 days and allow them to go off or have them. I think that it's written very clearly in our ordinance to give us the power when necessary. I like to base my decisions off of facts, and so I go through and I talk to people and I read facts. It's not the 5 people that send me emails about fireworks on a weekly basis. It's what I feel is only on fact, not on my opinion, because my opinion shouldn't make the decisions for the whole city. So I took the time to look to see what fireworks have done to us versus other things. If the fear is, as written in our summary, we have fire issues in this area. So I looked to see what fires are caused in our area and what causes them. The 2 main things in northern Sonoma County that start fires are the homeless and our own cooking. So we had 84 homeless fires in 2 years on our own river, just within the Cloverdale area. If we are so afraid of fires, why aren't we combating that this hard to where we want to actually do something more for them? And it would be the same with things like outdoor fire pits, outdoor barbecues. If those are really truly a problem and we're truly afraid of fire, why aren't we combating those and trying to get rid of those? I went into Sonoma County to see what causes more fires in Sonoma County. Most of them are caused by things like electrical power, vehicles, arson, lightning, heavy equipment. I went as far as digging to see what causes more fires, all the way down to the dumb, frivolous things, and this is where I'm probably going to burn a bridge with anybody that would ever like me or vote for me. Cats cause more fires than fireworks. So if we're truly worried about starting fires, we look for the things that start the fires, in my opinion. So if everybody got behind eliminating all the things we just talked about and finding ways to stop them from causing these fires, then I would back the fireworks. But until that happens, I have a hard time with this. We've had one fire in Cloverdale that was caused by a firework in the past 2 years. It was actually caused by, as it was explained to me, the mortar that was launched in the professional show. It was a little ember landed on a steel roof, and it was put out with a water bottle. There was not a fire that they actually responded to. It was just a call. So those are the facts. It is not fear. It is not my own opinion. It is not the if-thens, because I can't base my decision that affects thousands of people off of that. Now, I know I could be wrong. Everything could happen. We know that. I could die on the way home in my car. It's the way it goes. But, in 1777, we started this, and it was to celebrate our independence, like Councilmember Bagby said. And our country is more divided now than it has ever been, and I think it's because we continue to stop unifying with things like this. With that, I'm going to open it up to the public.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
Before you do that, I just
please.
Since we're sharing facts,
absolutely,
I think it's important that we, the people that want to see fireworks go away, they're basing facts on things like, and you can check the facts yourself on the internet, but the National Fire Protection Association, which is an international nonprofit organization devoted to eliminating death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire. And they have here, and you could check the numbers, 19,500 fires started by fireworks. Now, we're fortunate Cloverdale is not one of them. But as we see, we have a lot of stuff that burns in our county. Out of those fires, 5 people died, 46 injuries, and 105 million in property damage. So that's just one comment. The other thing is we talk safe and sane, okay? And that's, everybody's like, hey, but those are all too illegal. So if you take a look again on the internet, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, their 2020 fireworks annual report was published in June of 21. They list here, and I just picked a few numbers, but there's been over 10,300 injuries between June 21st and July 21st of 2020, that 1 month period, firework related, that were treated in the emergency rooms. Now we talk about the types of fireworks and they list them here, but sparklers, which is really people, there was 900 people that went to the hospital for sparkler injuries.
And it's mainly little kids.
And out of that, 400 of them were between 1 and 4 years old. And then 15 to 24 were, there was 100. And so, and it goes on. But, you know, so again, I understand numbers and I get it, but it depends which numbers you look at. And again, I'm not trying to say yay or nay. I'm saying fireworks have caused fires. They have injured people, and they continue to do that each year. You could read the reports. They're there. So I'm not taking a position on it, but I think it's important to put the facts out, as you just did.
Absolutely.
I want to share these facts as well. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Paula, thank you for that information. You know, I'm just going to take a second and relate an experience to you that happened in 2019 when the pandemic first came out, and we were we received quite a number of phone calls and emails to please stop the fireworks show. Now, I'm not talking about the sale of Safe and Sane, but just the show. And Nina Hatchett and myself, Nina, of course, you know, is with the Chamber. We met with the Lions Club. We met with the president at the time. I think Tex was there. And we asked them if they could please not have their show, because we didn't want people coming from Hillsburg and Santa Rosa and Windsor and coming. Some of those people were infected with the virus, and we didn't want them crowding our streets. And they said yes. I mean, you know, these are pillars of the community, this social club. They do have the safety of the community at heart. Last year and the year before, I constantly check with Dennis from TNT where they purchased their fireworks. They're given the instruction pamphlets to pass out on how to use Safe and Sane fireworks. They check IDs to make sure they're selling them to Cloverdale residents. So with that being said, you know, I don't want to see us, Melanie, take the action and make this decision for the entire community. I know we get paid to make the tough decisions, but something like this, fireworks, that's split right down the middle, I think we need to go to a ballot. And I'd like to call on Chief Ferguson, who came from Lakeport, where they actually did put it on the ballot. And then I'd also like to hear from Chief Ferguson about how many cities in the county still have fireworks. I know we are the only one, but are they still having fireworks lit off on the 4th of July? I'm sure they're not Safe and Sane. I'm sure people, when they buy them out of the trunk of a car, they're buying the big boys. No more Safe and Sane. So, Chief, I'd just like your thoughts on that.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll be happy to try to answer as best as I can and be brief. I'll kind of summarize. Yeah, I worked at Lakeport for 22 years. I'm very familiar with this topic. There are a lot of similarities between the city of Cloverdale and the city of Lakeport when it comes to the sale of Safe and Sane fireworks and opposition to it and those who wish to have it. I think the primary difference is Lakeport already had an existing ban on the sale of Safe and Sane. And this, of course, was met with considerable opposition by many members of the community, most notably the nonprofits who would use the proceeds of those fireworks sales for a variety of charitable things that they were involved in. So it's certainly understandable. I think as a result of that, the city did put it to a vote and put it on a ballot measure, Measure C, is what it was, and that was in a general election in November of 2009. Required a 50% pass, which it got. It passed by 60%, a little over 60. And to Jose's point that he brought up right at the end of his discussion, once this passed, in 2019, there was some community members coming forward opposing the sale of Safe and Sane simply because of many of the same arguments that are here, the fire dangers. However, the only way, as Jose said, the only way that could have been changed is if the council put it back on a ballot measure and went back to a vote to the citizens. And in this case, after discussion with the council, they did not put it back on the ballot, and it remains in existence today that the sale of Safe and Sane is legal. So that's my experience from the city of Lakeport, very similar to here. But yes, it did go to a ballot, and that measure exists today, that it's legal. As far as we are, I believe, the only city left that still permits the sale of Safe and Sane. As far as aerials, there are other cities that still permit the aerial shows. We're certainly one of those as well. But I do want to add a few things on our statistics for you, because I know some of these things are being addressed about response to these from a law enforcement perspective. I'll tell you, in 2020, we had 34 calls, firework-only related calls. And in 2021, we had 43 firework-related calls. I cannot tell you specifically if they were related to Safe and Sane or illegals. What I can tell you, and this is from my experience of working the street during 4th of July in 2020, the majority of these calls, if not all of them, are a result of typically the reporting party seeing aerial fireworks high up in the air and or loud explosions that accompany those. Those were very common and very consistent to the calls that we were getting. So I hope that answers your questions that you had, and if there's anything else, I'd be more than happy to share.
Thank you, Chief. That's fine. Do you guys mind if I open to the public now? All right, we'll start with the public in the room first, if you don't mind, Jill. Anyone here would like to speak on behalf? Please come forward and just state your name for me.
Jason Turner. Good evening. It is truly a pleasure to see you all again this evening. I wasn't here for public comment this evening, so I don't really have 3 minutes worth of things to say, so I thought I'd take just a quick moment to say thank you for stepping up in my absence, Councilmember Paula, and thank you for the work that you all have continued to do. I think you'll know that my voting history as a council member on fireworks is I voted to maintain our current ordinance the last 2 times it was brought before, so I won't spend time on how I feel about it. But what I would like to ask is, with the options that are before you, I think before you take a position of trying to protect people from themselves, allow them the opportunity to make that decision themselves. I absolutely understand the weight and the responsibility of having to make the tough decisions, particularly when it comes to budgetary items of what to do with tax revenue, for things like was mentioned that require the expertise of individuals who do this work regularly and are continuously absorbed in it. However, as you've seen as the years go on, this topic comes back each year, and it falls down on opinion about where we might mitigate risk. Therefore, it is no longer something that I feel your expertise can accomplish alone. I believe you need to afford the people of Cloverdale the opportunity to make this decision if this is where we continuously land. I would like to ask one question. Should the council choose to ban fireworks on their own, may we as the public continuously ask you every year to bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you, Jason. Yeah. Vice Mayor said that first, but I reiterate. Anyone else in the audience? please come forward. And as you see his time coming out, if there's anyone else, just start coming up and getting ready so we can keep it going. We can go home before 11. Please go ahead and state your name.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Paula, City staff. Sean Beauvais, City of Cloverdale. A couple of things real quick. Councilmember Paula, thank you. I believe truly, sir, that's the right approach. I appreciate the exchange of facts there with Mr. Mayor this evening. For both of you, genuinely, thank you. Chief as well. This has been a hot and contentious topic for many, many years. Vice Mayor Walter, you above all else, thank you, sir. As much as I wholeheartedly would like to see the majority of council take that position and leave it alone, as it has been brought back so many times for so many years, I think it truly is time to leave it alone. With that in mind, though, I'd have to say my biggest concern is in Councilmember Bagby's opinion of democracy. The idea that just one of you, or that the five of you together, would believe that it is your job to decide on such a contentious and such a divisive subject, that you would believe that that's what we elected you to do. Now, day to day, I trust you, and I trust Councilmember Bagby. However, on this particular topic, I'm sorry. In my opinion, she's absolutely incorrect. This is not something for the council to decide. This is not something for one individual to think that she has the power or position to disregard facts. In my opinion, that is the position of somebody who's got a personal agenda and wants to see this decision made for her personal reasons. So to the rest of the council, thank you. And please, if I had an opinion, put it on a ballot. Not an advisory ballot. That's just a way to find out how you're going to decide to move forward as a politician the following year. Put it on a real ballot. And I'm sure if there was a cost that was associated with such, that was difficult for the city to justify, I suspect that somebody would be willing to step up and help in that respect too. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else, please come forward. State your name for me.
Matthew Hart.
Thank you.
So I think it should be a ballot initiative. I think the people of Cloverdale should vote. I think it needs to be clarified that most people's complaints are that it disturbs their pets, and those are illegal and already banned. So there needs to be something between the legal and the illegal, and everyone needs to realize the illegal are banned. And we would like to keep our legal fireworks because our families enjoy them. That's all I really have to say. Thanks.
So can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, go ahead.
This is for the safe and sane legal fireworks.
Right,
and
but
you want
most
that
of
on
the
ballot.
complaints of getting rid of them have nothing to do with fire. They throw that in there, but they always complain that their animals are being disturbed.
Thank you, sir.
And those are the illegal ones that go off at 4 in the morning and you get the phone call. I have called. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come forward, please. I don't know if we call you Kris Kringle, Santa Claus,
Just call him John.
JT.
I'm John Turner. I've been in Cloverdale since 1984. Been in Lions Club since 1985. Been dealing with Pyro Spectacular and fireworks, safe and sane, all that time. I think the council needs to look at this, as they always have, with an open mind, either put it on the ballot or leave us alone and let us do our stuff. You guys put restrictions on us, the 4-day sale, you look around on 4th of July, things are going up in the air, like the Chief said, really loud, booming things, and they're spread out all over. Our products do not do that, but they are safe, way safer than something flying in the air. And I think, you know, as a council, you guys need to look at that, either that or put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? We have one more, Jill, it looks like, and then we'll go to.
Hi, this is Chase Stipe. I was actually surprised on the stance on a lot of the council members. I was under the assumption that the majority of the council was against safe and sane fireworks. But I just think the problem with regulatory issues like this is that if you do ban fireworks, even safe and sane, how do you enforce that? You know, it's going to continue to be an issue, I believe, you know, in my opinion. And I do think it should go to ballot too. I think it should be decided by the people and left alone. You know, that's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, Jill.
Rest.
Terry, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Matt Glockner, and I'm just here to speak on the fireworks issue. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know that this has been hashed back and forth many times. I'm a proponent of keeping the fireworks as they are. Specifically for one reason is that you know, I think that we're overlooking an option that we have not discussed, which is increased enforcement against aerial fireworks and fireworks that we deem not appropriate or safe for our community. Numerous times in the last few years, I've seen police and fire drive by places where mortars were set up and being launched in the air and look at them and continue to drive. To me, that's not enforcement. And to me, banning fireworks, all it's doing is taking away that safe and sane option for myself and my family to be able to enjoy this holiday. I appreciate your guys' time moving forward. And if the council feels at the end of the day that increased enforcement by the police department and the fire department is not an option, which I think it totally is, and we should continue to work on that, the next year then, instead of making a decision by 5 people, it should go to a vote of the city. The people that live in the city, the people that have heart in the city, the people that have paid their taxes in the city, and the people that live here. They're the ones that should be able to make this choice moving forward. Again, I support the continued use of the fireworks the way they are, with a strong enforcement by the police and fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Get remove, I think, right?
I could drop off if you want. Makes it easier.
Reese or Jane, whichever.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, this is Jane Elias, Cloverdale. Council members, thank you for bringing this forward once again. As mentioned, it has been discussed many times. I would really like to see option 1 tonight. I do think that, and I agree with Councilmember Bagby, that the constituents in Cloverdale do their due diligence in voting council members in, and part of it is making tough decisions. That said, if option 1 does not occur, then I would like to see option 3A and take this to a vote of the people of Cloverdale and for a permanent decision. And, you know, I appreciate the facts that were stated by Mayor Lands, by Councilmember Paula and others. From what I could hear, I didn't get a chance to hear all of it. It is really difficult to understand you with those microphones and the sound. But, you know, 5 years of fire events in this county and surrounding counties and throughout this state, extreme weather events, the safety features that we have to deal with around extreme weather events, PSPS events, fires. You know, the discussions come up for the betterment of the last 3 years at least. And it would be really nice to finally put a vote to this and have this done. We're dealing with extreme drought right now. We've been in an extreme drought for the last few years. We're probably going to continue in an extreme drought. And all it's going to take is one fire. And we've had fires in this city in previous years that were caused by fireworks. And with our limited resources that we're going to have to tap in order to fight any of those fires, it seemed logical to me to not have the sale of fireworks, but to be able to enjoy the shows, the public event shows that are put on, whether that's in this town or it's events that you get to watch on television. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jill, whenever you're done. Hi, Ann, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I've been patiently waiting to speak. And actually, I'm glad Jane spoke before me because I want to really reiterate pretty much everything she stated. It is vital that we consider the drought that we are living through and all experiencing. And, you know, the safe and sane fireworks has been used continuously throughout this discussion. And you can put safe and sane fireworks out there, but if they get in the hands of people who are not safe and sane, we are all vulnerable to any spark that can be ignited fireworks. And from my own experience, I've lived here almost 20 years, and I have seen 2 fires started by fireworks. One here on the corner of Hot Springs Road and Foothill, just below Mr. Ferber's property. And then one where the new senior living center is on Treadway. That was back a few years ago. Someone set a firework off and ignited that whole field. So in my view, with our conditions, climate conditions, no water, we really need to be so conscious. And I really besiege the city council to make a strong decision here and vote against the selling of fireworks. Use that $18,000 that would be used to put this on the ballot. Give it to the Redwood Empire Food Bank. I mean, really, it just makes total sense to me that the fireworks should no longer be sold in this day and age with the conditions that we are living in present day. So thank you for your time. I hope you consider my opinion, and I appreciate everyone who spoke tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Hi. Helen Broughton. I've been here for 14 and a half years. I love fireworks. My family loves fireworks. I appreciate what Joe Paula said about injuries. It is my responsibility to make sure that my kids don't have access to sparklers when they're not old enough for sparklers. I scheduled my vacations around being in Cloverdale on the 4th of July because it's important to me that we are a special community and we have a special place and we are allowed and able to celebrate with fireworks. When I vote for city council members, my most important issue is, do you want fireworks in Cloverdale? Because I think it says a lot about tradition and freedom and letting people choose. And I don't want to live in fear And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can ban all the spinning wheels in the city, but someday Sleeping Beauty might get, the spinning wheel. She'll get her finger stuck. And we can ban all we want of fire starters, but something might start a fire, and I don't think it's fireworks, because after we do safe and sane fireworks, with all safety precautions in place, we listen to the radio scanner, and we listen to the calls, and our first responders are on it. And if there are things that are putting us in jeopardy, they respond. So I strongly support option 4, and I appreciate having the freedom and the ability to use fireworks in Cloverdale safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We got you.
A little muffled and I can't hear everybody, so I appreciate everybody's responses. I ask that council listens to their constituents. The fireworks show is amazing. Our family enjoys it. We've watched it for over 20 years. I personally have not heard that many fireworks fires have happened in Cloverdale. It's very controversial. It should be decided upon the people or fairly on the council, not from a personal or selfish perspective. Pet, that's the reason. Your pets are afraid and it happens once a year, then keep them safe. That's your job. That's your responsibility as a pet owner. Turn up the TV, keep them indoors, put them in doggy daycare, whatever you have to do. People are complaining about the drought. We've been doing it for years. That's never been an issue. We've not had any fires from the fireworks. I personally called the fire department last time this came to the council, and all these people tonight are saying, "Oh, the fires from fireworks." Call the fire department because that has not been confirmed. Why doesn't council invite the fire department to this discussion? Again, there's been no. I've been here 20 years. Banning fireworks will never, ever prevent the black from coming to Cloverdale. If anything, it may encourage more black market Cloverdale. That's the last thing we want. I did hear somebody here say that they have seen officials drive by hot spots where they're setting off mortars. I have heard the same thing. Nobody has bothered to stop them. They just turn a blind eye. Whether that be true, I'm not sure. But if that's the case, then that's the responsibility of those officials, supervisors. Deal with it. There's more fires from homeless, from pets, from candles, things like that, not fireworks. We have a petition online. There's already 1,000. And I'm not sure if you can, but if council fireworks, can that be appealed by the
Angela, you're cutting out. We can't hear you. Angela, if you come back, you have about a little under a minute left. If you want to clear up your internet and come back in a little while, we'll let you finish.
I can't hear you, Todd.
Oh, we got you back. Keep going.
Oh, what? You lost me?
Yeah, we lost you. You're back. Go. Okay. Let's move to the next one. And if she comes back on, we'll give her about a minute, Jill. Heath, if you can hear us, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name's Heath Blackwell. Lived here for the last 7 years. And I'm strongly opposed of the council making a decision for their constituents. The fires that have all been in the staff report have all been either PG&E or lightning strikes. And at this point in time, you might as well go ban PG&E. You're not going to do that. This was brought to the voters before. And, you know, if you really want to take it to the voters again, take it to the voters again, but you should not be making that decision for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath. Dennis, can you hear us?
Hello?
Please go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, this is Dennis Ravel, President of Ravel Communications, appearing on behalf of our client, TNT Fireworks. It should come as no surprise that we support what you've heard repeatedly from the majority of your constituents tonight and support option 4 to maintain the current regulations. Should this council decide that the matter should be placed on the ballot, I would suggest to you that there are 5 things you should consider. 1, select the ballot that will have the highest voter turnout. If the 4 years ago is a good indicator in a gubernatorial year, the June primary was only a 50.5% turnout. The November general was 76.8% turnout. Thereby, the November general is a better date than the June primary. Number 2, the ballot that is least expensive for the city to be on. The November ballot will be as much as $10,000 less expensive than than the June ballot. Number 3, nonprofit groups are counting on this income to meet their current 2022 budget. Number 4, holding it at the same time as other city matters are being voted on will help the voters focus on city issues and city problems and this issue. And number 5, it gives the city staff ample time to do the necessary work and place the least amount of stress on them. So should the council decide to put the matter on the ballot, we would urge that you adopt option 3A with a mandatory ordinance, not an advisory measure, and place it on the November general election ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Garrett, we got you.
Thank you. I'm Garrett Broughton, 310 Homewood Court. I kind of feel like it's telling that here we are, kind of a generation or generations that have enjoyed Independence Day celebrations our entire lives. And now we're in a position of whether it be certain wealth or property ownership that's born on the back of, what are we at, $29 trillion in debt to get where we are now, that in order to protect our investments, we want to deprive our future generations of the celebration of Independence Day that we've enjoyed our whole life. Fireworks have been used to celebrate the 4th of July since 1777, the very first official celebration, 1 year after independence. Our founding fathers and mothers didn't sacrifice their independence for fear, and fear of the future doesn't trump the future, or future events, or future fires. So as we possibly sit in our houses this maybe 4th of July, celebrating the 4th of July without fireworks, I can't imagine a more morose scene of people who've thrown in the towel and decided to quit and cashed in on the future. Why do you think that this is such a passionate subject? Because people love their fireworks and people love their independence. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Garrett. Hi, Fred. Can you hear us? Fred, can you unmute? Yeah, we'll come back to Fred. Yep. Leanne, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me just say that safe and sane fireworks are not a danger to anyone. I don't care where you live. You have to let adults be adults and make decisions to regulate that. Let me tell you, if you ban them, all the illegal fireworks that happen after the fireworks show at the high school will still go off. Period. I watch them, and I'm not just talking within city limits, I'm talking on county, unincorporated county properties. So it just seems insane, and I agree with Angela. If your pets are adverse to loud noises, bring them inside. Do what you have to do to protect your children and your animals, period. You're taking away the rights. I mean, if adults make bad decisions with safe and sane fireworks, then they have to suffer the consequences. Don't make the whole community suffer because of one person's bad decision. It's not going to stop the main danger, which is, again, not the safe fireworks, it's the illegal ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Hey, Fred, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I'm not a public speaker, but I'm going to give it my best shot and let everybody know that I have lived in Cloverdale for multiple years, my whole life, and I'm 46, so that's a long time. Anyways, I feel that, Helen, Garrett, Heath, JT, we all have the same understanding as this should be something that the community of Cloverdale can come together and whether we vote it down or vote it up, approve it, whatever you want to call it. This shouldn't be left to council members. This is a serious issue, and win, lose, or fail, it should be brought to the community and let everybody decide. And what is voted is what's voted. I feel like if you are not a good parent, where you let your kid that shouldn't be playing with some sparklers gets burnt, and you've got to call the medical, and they need some help because you made that decision and thought that your kid can play with the fireworks. That's on you. That has nothing to do with safe and sane fireworks. That's you as being a parent that is not doing your due diligence. That's my opinion. Is I know I got a 4-year-old and I would not let him play with fireworks that he cannot play with, and that's just where I feel. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, put it on a ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Aaron, can you hear us? Aaron, can you unmute so we can hear you? I don't know if he had his hand up, Jill. It did. It did. It was that last one right there. did it again. Yeah.
Are you there?
We're here, Angela. We're waiting for you.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know where I left off because it cut off. I know this is very controversial. I think it should be decided upon the people. Hopefully it could be decided fairly upon the council, not personal or selfish perspective. I respectfully ask that you listen to all of your constituents. I understand that people are saying that there's fires from fireworks here in Cloverdale. I personally called the fire and that has not been confirmed. I asked them the last time this came up to council and the fire department was not able to confirm that fireworks had fires, caused fires in Cloverdale. Fires are from homeless, from pet, candles, stuff like that.
Angela, we're going to cut you off. Your 3 minutes is up, and I appreciate your comments tonight.
What?
Your total of 3 minutes is up, and we're going to thank you for your comments and move to the next one. Waiting for a bad word right there. Jill, any more comments? I don't see any more hands. Okay. Anyone else in our public? Please go ahead. Come on up. Please just state your name for us.
Hi, my name is Natasha Hart. I don't hear like any solutions. It's just the one solution, which is don't have fireworks. There are such things called quiet fireworks, and they have, you know, the big ones for like the show. You would typically see those at Disneyland. They also have safe and sane fireworks that are also quiet. So, you know, instead of it's like black and white, there is some gray in there. So I would be hopeful that you guys would consider that. Thanks.
Thank you, Tasha. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, folks. My name is Justin Galloway. While I've been listening to all these discussions, I guess I keep thinking there's one thing that I'm missing out on, and I believe this whole agenda item is in regards to safe and sane fireworks and eliminating them for the potential fire threat. But what I haven't heard is there's no actual data that's been provided of the fact that do safe and sane fireworks cause fires? If the reason for this is because they pose a fire risk, at what point, instead of making subjective opinions on it, at what point do we actually get the facts of does this pose a fire threat? Shouldn't that be our first step in this whole discussion? If they don't pose the fire threat that all the other items do, then this isn't even a topic. And I'm just wondering how come we don't have the tangible data provided to you to make that decision in the first place if it is going to be a city council decision. If it goes to the public, that's fine. That gives time. If it goes to a vote, that gives time for the information to get out there so people can make a reasonable decision on this. But I haven't heard, yes, safe and sane fireworks have caused injuries. Well, that's injuries. That's not fire hazard. That's not what this topic is about. And again, yes, I'm sure another thing is, at what point do we clarify what fireworks get sold in Cloverdale? We're talking about stationary objects that are designed to burn out a set amount of time. Maybe the general public sees bottle rockets and projectiles, mortars, and think that's what's being sold in Cloverdale. Maybe people just aren't aware of what's actually available to residents and they can't distinguish between the two. But again, I think it just comes down to, can we get the facts so we could all make an educated decision on this, rather than just making subjective decisions? And I ask you if maybe that should be the step before all this starts, to even know where to start this discussion at. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Anyone else? What is that last hand, Jill, I see there? Still Angela's up? Okay. We'll bring it back to the dais and close public comment at this time. Who wants to go first?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to make the suggestion that we bring Angela back. You have the authority to do that. She had such a poor connection. We couldn't hear half of the things that she said within her first time frame. So I'd like to make the suggestion that we bring her back so she can have her say.
And
Okay.
I support that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's fine by me. The council supports it, so Angela, let's see if we can bring her back. Angela, are you there?
What was said?
Councilmember Cruz, we're going to give Angela another chance to talk since we couldn't hear her in her last public comment. So Angela, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. You have a bad connection, so you're the lucky one that gets extra time. So please give us a little bit of whatever you said.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for giving me another chance. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. But anyway, so what I was saying was that if pets are an issue, people need to be a responsible pet owner. They need to put their pets inside, take care of them, do what you have to do. Cloverdale Fire has never confirmed to me personally when I called, they have never confirmed a fire started by fireworks here in Cloverdale. I've asked them at the last meeting when this came up, and they've never confirmed that. Yes, we're in a drought, but I believe that the fireworks have been very controlled, if you will. If this is banned, it's not going to stop the black market fireworks. In fact, I am afraid that it will increase black market fireworks coming to Cloverdale. I'm not sure if council bans fireworks if the constituents are allowed to appeal that decision. I'm not sure if that could be answered tonight or maybe via email tomorrow. But I think it should be a fair decision either by the council or passed off to your constituents. But it should be a fair decision if you decide to vote on it and listen to your people, the constituents. That's what matters. And I do appreciate everybody's comments tonight. Thank you again for a chance to speak.
Thank you, Angela. Close public comment one more time and come back. So who wants to go first? Anyone in particular? Raise your hand if you do. Can you remove Angela from speaking, Jill? Thank you. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to start off. I don't disagree with anything that was said this evening. I mean, it's certainly, it's a very difficult, very sensitive issue. People feel strongly on both sides. I think it's important that everybody gets an opportunity to weigh in. We do represent all the people, not just the vocal minority that are here this evening or those that took time to call in. I really think there's arguments on both sides, good ones, and I think this is an opportunity for the community to hear them and weigh in. We've never had a fire. That may be true, that may be not true. I don't know, but I do know there are fires caused by fireworks. That's been shown. We just don't want to have a first time, I guess is what people are telling me. And the what ifs and what ifs and what ifs. And I hear that and there's no response. I mean, the what ifs, once a fire starts, it's got to be put out. Hopefully nobody's going to get hurt. Hopefully nobody's going to lose property. Could it happen with an illegal firework? Absolutely. But again, it's just what it is. I think everybody should have a right to weigh in. And it is concerning too with the, fires also not only hurt people, lose property, but they also take a lot of water. And with the emergency drought and all the situations that we're dealing with there, that's also a concern to a lot of people. They're saying, my God, these fires, it takes a lot of water, yet we have to conserve. We're letting lawns die. And it's a hard one to understand why, they expect us to make those decisions. I support number 3A. I really think, and I support it going on the November ballot. I really think we should let the people speak once and for all and let it fall where it falls, because I'm open-minded on both sides, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are not, and I think we have a right and a responsibility to let them speak. So I do support 3A, and I'd like to see us move in that direction, give staff that direction this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Cruz.
Regarding fireworks, this is a very passionate subject for everybody. And regarding who makes the decision, people need to understand that we were voted in to make very critical, very serious, and very compromised decisions. You trust us with the money for managing this town, to work with all the employees, to work with all of you. So it's not that we are taking advantage of any kind of power. You have put us on council to make decisions that impact everybody's lives, either is at 4th of July celebrations or during floods, during budget cuts, etc. So nobody here is playing a power game. We're just here doing our job, a very badly paid job anyway, because, we only get $500 a month. We don't get thousands of dollars. And we do it because we're committed to all of you. So I will vote one way or the other. And I do agree that we need to be conscientious about water. We need to be conscientious about safety in general, not only for Cloverdale, but for the region. Because if we ever have a fire in Cloverdale, it has the potential to go elsewhere. Look at the fire that started in Napa. And where did it end up? So, it's not that we are afraid of the future. We are taking into account all the information that's available to try to come up with good decisions for all of the people. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Cruz. Councilmember Bagby, would you like to go?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's been a really good opportunity to listen to my other council members and hear where the public is. And of course, we've just received volumes and volumes and volumes of emails before this meeting and over the years. So, when I'm trying to make this decision, I keep that in mind as well, and try to listen to all of the constituents. But I also just have to reflect on where we are in our larger community. We're part of a larger community in Sonoma County. We're the last city that allows the sale of fireworks in our city limits to be used, on the 4th of July, one day. And I think, Councilmember Cruz brings up a really good point, is that we're trusted with a lot more far-reaching public policy, employee issues, dealing with our unions, setting the policy direction for the city in partnership with staff and our constituents. And this is one day, a very important day to celebrate our democracy. So I feel like I've gotten so much information from so many sources and so many constituents that I do feel comfortable making a decision tonight. You know, I could certainly live with moving forward with putting it on the ballot, going with 3A, but actually, honestly, I would like to make a motion right now that we move forward with option 1.
Do we have a second for her motion?
I would second that.
Could we have the rest of the council weigh in on which option they?
Well, now we can comment on her motion in second, and then we'll come back to our comments again. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we want to make comments on this, or do we want to just vote?
Just vote.
Can we do a roll call vote on number 1, which is, sorry, I want to just be clear, adopting an ordinance to prohibit right here with the 5 of us. So, please.
Commissioner Maggie?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Council member, yes.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Fala?
No.
Vice Mayor Walter?
With an explanation, you know, Councilmember Paula also made a suggestion of 3A, and that was not called for a second, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not sure we should be voting on this, but as you wish, no.
No. And the reason I did, Vice Mayor, was because he made a suggestion, she made a motion, and that's why I did it that way. I thought we were going around the table suggesting I was keeping notes.
I was holding the motion until everybody had an opportunity to speak.
So, okay, so I guess it's down to me. No, Vice Mayor, please, your turn.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the mayor, in the beginning of his comments, mentioned other fire starters that we sell within our community. Fireworks are one day.
Microphone, please.
Can you hear me now? Okay. In the beginning, Mayor Lance mentioned other fire accelerants that we sell within our community, referring to charcoal lighter fluid, campfire wood, and these products are sold year-round. Fireworks are sold once a year. So if we really have a concern about the potential of future fires, we need to look at everything that's sold within our community. If you go to 2nd Street Park and look at some of those barbecue pits where the bottoms are rusted out and people still continue to use them. So I'm in favor of number 3A, and I'm not going to make a motion because I want to hear what the mayor has to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So I'm just going to, I took notes through every single person's comment. I kept track of what every single person wanted, and so I'm going to just make a few extra little comments. The fire that was talked about that we had, the Tubbs fire from 2017, it was very destructive. It followed the exact same path from 1964, a fire called the Hanley Fire. So those that don't know, it is not because of anything that we can control if we're allowing the brush and the underbrush and the tinder to sit the way that our environment does. So the fire paths are created naturally, and in 60 years, if I'm alive, I'll bet I'll see another one that'll follow that same path, if not sooner, and I hope we don't. Councilmember Paula, those are actually great facts, and I had read those, and I completely agree with you, and the hard part was, like, I think it was Justin who mentioned, you know, they didn't differentiate, and so that's why I didn't use those ones, because I couldn't tell the difference. The one thing that you could do is they listed percentages when they were talking about the ages of kids and sparklers and things like that. Sparklers was the only one that they listed as a firework, because they listed the fireworks, but it was the only one that's listed that is a safe and sane. And that was 12% of all fires or injuries was caused by sparklers. So, you know, basically 12% I saw could have come from safe and sane. I could be wrong. That's just the way the data was laid out. So take it with a grain of salt, if you will. Like I said already, we have the ability to prohibit fireworks when needed. If the weather or drought or whatever it is makes it necessary. I think that we have that ability with the way we already have our ordinance written. Let's see here. About 35 years ago, when the county had made fireworks illegal in the county, we had Safe and Sane come in because the aerials and the illegals got so bad in our area, they were causing problems. I actually had one of my friends who caught his head on fire. So I know that they can cause injury. There's no doubt about that. However, the Safe and Sane, they calmed down the illegals that we had in our area. And if you look, 34 calls in a city, I know it's hard on a small town, but at the same time, it's not that much overall for illegal aerials for response. I used to work as a deputy, and I've seen these shows, and we used to stand on top of the jail, and you would get better shows from Corby Avenue than you would from the fairgrounds. And that's because they were illegal, and you couldn't have other fireworks there. Last year, there was on Corby Avenue a street that they blocked off with illegal fireworks for over an hour for their own aerial show, and ended up having a couple murders out of it. The fires that were mentioned by one of the speakers, I apologize, I'm just not going to start listing names anymore. They were by bottle rockets, according to the fire department, back when I asked a couple years ago when I was fighting this from the public. The pet issue, like the chief said, a lot of those are the aerials that you hear the booms, you see. Those are what scare the pets. It's not the little sparklers or the ones out in the street. And I really liked the idea of strengthening the deterrent of the illegals. If we're allowed to Safe and Sane and keep the ones that are the safest possible to have, then we push harder on the ones that we're not. And we do everything we can to strengthen our deterrence against them so that maybe we keep people from wanting to do them. I don't know how that would work with Prop 47 and 57, but we can create something with our ordinance, I think, probably. That's really all I have other than what I've said earlier, so I'm not going to go any further, and I'd like to, personally, I think my choice, since we're going through what I would choose option 4. I would leave it the way it is because our ordinance is written well to cover if we need to.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
I'd like to make the motion that we direct staff to go back and with the direction of working with item number 3A and putting this on the ballot for the November 2022 election.
And if I may add to that, first I'll second it, and then when we have a discussion, I would like to ask. I'll second that. I would like to ask that in the ordinance that we put on the ballot, that we have a mechanism to allow a public display, public shows by professionals, so those shows can continue. And so in the ordinance, it's got to have some mechanism to allow. We're talking to prohibit the sale of Safe and Sane, but to have a permit process in place with the safeguards for public displays. Is that agreeable in your motion?
Yes, basically you're looking for a permit process for the shows.
Public shows that are safeguarded under
Okay.
regulation. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second, and I apologize I didn't do it last time. I didn't ask public here. I see no hands from here, but if there's any public that wants to make any comment on that, seeing none. Okay. Yes, sir, please. Now that it's narrowed down, give it an option. There's still no hands in the audience. Your time already started, JT.
I'm not scared. I just have a question. If you put it on a ballot, is it a 50-50 deal? If the 51% wins and we have Safe and Sane, is that how it's going to work?
Yes.
Or one vote over 50%?
One vote over, they're banned.
That's the only question I really had.
Yes, sir, it's a
Okay, thank you.
50% threshold. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Jill, could we do a roll call?
So motion was by Vice Mayor Walter, and it was seconded.
And could you read it clearly, because I didn't hear that very well? So Jill,
Do you
could
want
you
to go
read?
ahead and make your motion again?
Yes, thank you, Jill. I'll make it with the amendment. But I would like to direct staff to go back and work on option number 3A for a November 2022 election, with the caveat that within the ordinance, I guess, we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, we want the permit process for displays. Did I capture that correct, Councilmember Fowler?
Well, public shows.
Public shows.
Such as the ones that's been taking place, hosted by the Lions Club at the high school.
Okay.
Jose, is that clear enough for you?
And that is clear. Just a note on the public displays. Currently, your ordinance does allow you to create regulations regarding permits for public displays. So that's something that can be done. But if given direction by this vote today, if the council agrees to put it on the November election, there's still a process. We'll come back to you to look at what that ordinance would look like, and we'll do that the public display so you could see potentially what it could look like. The council can decide whether to put that for the voters or not, but we could have options for you to look at. But I just wanted to make a note, your current ordinance does allow you to create those regulations.
Thank you.
Ready for a vote?
Yep.
Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Councilmember Paula?
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
No.
Mayor Lands?
No. Sorry, I'm trying to get my screen going here.
The record reflects that the motion was upheld on a vote of 3-2.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, may I request a short recess?
Absolutely. 5 minutes, 9:14. All right, we're coming back at 9:14. Moving forward, we are on H, subcommittee items. First subcommittee, Finance, Admin, and Police. Representative? Looks like you're dead, Joe. It's dead. Here.
I don't know. I'm sorry. What?
There you go.
Oh, is it? Okay. Thank you.
We're playing musical microphones.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Can you repeat? Am I?
Yes, Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee. Want to tell us what's going on?
Oh, that would be, our chair would be Councilmember Cruz. They're asking for a report on our last Finance, Administration, and Police Subcommittee.
Well, the last one was canceled, and a new one took place already? Councilmember Powell?
I don't believe so. I think the next one is
February 7th.
Yeah, so the next one is February 7th, and that'll be with the new committee members. Yeah.
Okay, so there's not much to report at this point. Everything that has been on the agenda has been discussed on that. And
Planning and Sustainability?
We next meet February 15th.
Thank you. Public Works?
Mr. Mayor, our next meeting is February 22nd. We did have a pretty good meeting yesterday. We covered a variety of topics. One of them was a presentation by the Russian River Drought Response Group. And I believe, David, everybody is going to be getting that packet and presentation because it will be coming in front of the full City Council. It's extremely thick and kind of complicated. Am I correct with that, David?
Vice Mayor Walter, you're absolutely correct. The Public Works Subcommittee received a presentation update on the Russian River Drought Response Group. There's a committee that has been developing a voluntary drought agreement The council will be asked to weigh in on whether to participate in that voluntary agreement, and it involves various policy issues that council will have to evaluate as part of a decision whether to participate or not, and also your input on if you want to participate, your preferred option, because there are some options built into the decision making relative to whether to enter into a voluntary agreement. But the direction from the subcommittee was to send a memo out with an update as well as a PowerPoint presentation providing an overview of the process and the voluntary drought agreement for council's review prior to receiving a presentation.
And just a couple more things I'm going to share with you. We talked about the vegetation management program, and there's going to be on February the 4th, there's going to be a burn, and there's going to be notices put out throughout the city where we think they'll do the most good. We're going to try and get it on the Citrus Fair marquee, and Hector is going to be posting notices at the trailhead itself. We also talked about more money coming in for that management control. I believe it was another $20,000, or we were going to be getting some money in mid-February. Did I get that wrong? Chief Jenkins had some money set aside, additional money.
That is correct, Vice Mayor. We successfully completed phase 1, at least the vegetation removal component, and we are currently scheduled to conduct the prescribed burning on Friday, February 4th. The plan is to close the park for one day. Concurrently, our team, led up by our park superintendent, is working closely with the fire district and North Sonoma County Fire on phase 2 that would include additional area above Sonoma Drive, and to build in additional fire buffer between existing residents and the open space. So that's a work in progress, and we expect to see more work performed as we move into the springtime in that area.
And then the last thing, David, I'm going to call on you and Councilmember Paula, is the $3.5 million grant that was submitted to the drought relief water system. Councilmember Paula, I think you contacted Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood on this matter.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Walter. Yeah, I did reach out to both Senator McGuire and to Assemblyman Jim Wood, and I sent them all the information on it and asked for their help in supporting this, making contacts, sending letters. They've reached back out. I sent them more information. They both committed. They're going to do everything they can to put support behind our grant application, and the letters are in process, and hopefully they'll be there, and hopefully we'll get the I think it's $3,005,000. Yeah.
Good. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And that will address a lot of the
water infrastructure,
important projects that are on our capital improvement program. So,
thank you, sir. Next is the City Fire District.
Well, let's hope that we have a heartily meeting on the 14th.
All right, and the last two are mine, the City School. Actually, Joe, if you want to do the City School Subcommittee, I don't know if you want to, our next meeting is just scheduled at this point.
Yeah, our next meeting is scheduled for February 7th. It's at 4:30. I'm not sure the location, whether it's going to be at the library or at the Maker's Room up at the school district. So that'll be announced on the agenda.
Chair, members of council, I just want to note that we've been working with the school district and the subcommittee members on scheduling a date for that for the joint city school subcommittee, and it just so happens that falls on the regular meeting date for finance, admin, and police. I think staff can accommodate that because the finance, admin, and police starts at 1:30 and then school starts at 4:30. But I just wanted to note that there are two subcommittee meetings on the same day. It's a somewhat unusual occurrence, but so long as the finance, admin, and police subcommittee members are okay with cutting it a little bit short so we can set up at the next meeting, we should be fine.
Thank you, sir. Last is the Homeless Community Advisory Group. The next meeting is February 10th. We had to cancel our last one due to another scheduled meeting.
So before we leave that, I had some clarification questions on that committee advisory group, because on the list it shows a second Tuesday monthly, 1:30 p.m. and then 5 p.m. rotating. February 10th is actually a Thursday. So it would be actually February 8th. Is that would be a Tuesday?
They're typically scheduled. Well, they are. Is the second Tuesday of the month?
It says here the second Tuesday monthly, and I'm
You
not
would be
sure.
right. You would be right, Joe.
So if it's the 8th, and then my other question would be on the time. Is there a reason it fluctuates back and forth?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of public comments regarding the times of the meetings. So they were all at 1 o'clock and they couldn't make the meetings.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we flip-flopping for people's schedules.
So I'm not sure what time the one on the 8th would be.
I think it will be the later.
The 5 o'clock. Okay.
5 o'clock.
I
I
was
believe is
not
where we're
clear.
at. I just don't want to be wrong on.
Okay, maybe if we could just check that and get it out so I can get my calendar correct on that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, subcommittee reports. Already received that. Verbal only. Council reports. Any verbal reports? Nope. Okay.
I forgot to add something to my written report.
Please,
if I may,
go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Due to 1383, the zero waste situation that we're having to face with compost, etc., I have been addressing with Recology the issue of apartment complexes and multi-units in terms of what's going to happen with composting bins. Also, for those of us who live in condominiums, the size of the particular bins that are going to be given to us. And so they have been talking about it, but they haven't made any decisions, and they're going to be contacting different management companies, because that's going to be the big challenge. It's not necessarily the people, but working with the management companies and also all the people who do the gardening for all these complexes. So it is something that is not resolved, but we're working on it wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councilmember Cruz. Informational reports.
No reports, Mayor.
Legislative reports, letters of support or opposition.
No reports, Mayor.
City manager, city attorney reports. David?
Just a brief update, kind of positive news. We were contacted by the UC Berkeley Engineering Department. They've advised us that we've been chosen as a community to conduct a complete street safety assessment for our city. Staff is working on scheduling a meeting with the staff of UC Berkeley that are going to conduct that study. We will report out more when we know more. We were one of a very few communities that was selected for this safety assessment, but I think it could be beneficial because we've heard from the community that there are safety concerns about some of our streets. So it could be a valuable exercise to engage with UC Berkeley in this effort to look at through the what's called the Complete Streets program. Usually it's something you have to pay consultants a lot of money to fund. So we're kind of excited that we were chosen for this effort. So we'll know more as once we meet with the UC Berkeley team.
Jose, you're up.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Just thank you for covering the Brown Act question. We had the audio problems. Your answer was spot on regarding the majority of the council. So thanks for covering.
Thank you, sir. Status update on current impacts to water supply.
Thank you, Mayor. I think kind of the update was covered by Vice Mayor Walter's discussion about the Restroom River Drought Response Group. I think that's in direct response to the drought conditions that we've been experiencing. We've now seen a fairly odd precipitation this current weather year, where we experienced a lot of weather in October, pretty dry November, a wet December. Now we're experiencing a dry January. We're kind of looking out to the forecast in February, and it's looking like we may again continue to have dry conditions. Since the last council meeting, we've seen the outflows from Lake Mendocino now exceed the inflows, so we kind of hit the peak at this point, and starting to decline. So we're really hoping to get some additional precipitation to build up our reservoir levels, because that will have a direct impact in terms of the curtailment order and how we respond to these drought conditions. So kind of the message is this is still a good opportunity for our residents to conserve water and take efforts to reduce their water use at their individual homes and businesses as we progress into early spring.
Thank you. Status on the current emergency?
All right, well, kind of a update. There is a health order that was put in place in mid-January. It's expires on February 11th, and we've heard from the health officer that there is no plans currently to extend the current restrictions relative to gatherings of 50 or more. There's the data is indicating that the rate of spread of COVID is starting to decline. So maybe we've hopefully seen a peak in the current case rate relative to Omicron. But it does seem like maybe we've peaked and we're going to be on a decline. So kind of positive news in that regard, but still the health order will remain in effect until mid-February.
David, did I hear somewhere that they've reclassified the culvert from a pandemic to an epidemic?
I haven't heard any official declarations, rather reclassifying from a pandemic to an endemic.
Okay.
It certainly seems like we're moving in that direction, but I haven't heard anything officially yet.
Okay, thank you.
Future agenda items. Any at the table? Councilmember Bagby, any future agenda items?
Oh, since I was having a sneezing fit earlier and I turned off my video for a second, I would just say that for a future agenda item, kind of on the heels of what David was talking about us being selected for the Complete Streets grant opportunity, it would be, hopefully we'll have more information as well from the Great Redwood Trail and the transition to their new staff from the Coastal Conservancy that will be interested in partnering with us on the Great River Trail Gateway that will naturally be on Astor Road between Cloverdale and First Street. And so hopefully we'll get more information from them about grant opportunities. But one of the points that the new director answered when I asked her is that they have a very strong history of working with communities to stack benefits and stack grant opportunities. So actually working with the Great Redwood Trail in conjunction with our Complete Streets plan will be a great opportunity for city staff to work with that agency and possibly others for developing our street plan and our plan for getting community input on what the future of Asti Road will look like, what the future of Cloverdale Boulevard might look like, all of that stuff. So it just kind of seems like all of these opportunities are coalescing right now.
And don't forget the First Street Bridge.
And First Street Bridge, absolutely. But yeah, it just it sounds like all of these opportunities are really coalescing right now for us to, really work with the community to create a vision for all of those areas. So hopefully we'll have more information on that for staff, and we can, we can be sure to stack those benefits going forward.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for February 9th. If nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 9:31.